This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. 4 Bahamian men arrested following a failed human smuggling attempt. The Prime Minister says to the opposition leader, "Stay out of my business," in regards to shuffling the cabinet. And in our interview, we are talking with U.S. State Department about visa-free travel and making sure everything's set for your travel plans. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's there. It's the start of the end of the old way. Revolution. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, my special guest co-host, Alexis Burrows, will be joining us. Also this morning, in Morning Blend Business, we are talking with the Bahamas Insurance Association about the government's plan to put VAT on other medical costs. Well, to explain the whole situation for us, we're going to try to break that down as simply as possible and why you should be paying attention to this. That's coming up. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while you were sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning.
It's a new day.
In the overnight, 4 Bahamian men caught trying to smuggle a group of 15 foreign nationals into the United States. Minister of Labor and Immigration Keith Bell confirming this. It happened yesterday. The smuggling attempt failed after the boat the group was on began to take on water. He said the boat left from West End, Grand Bahama around 10:40 a.m. and the boat took on water and they had to be rescued. According to Bell, the people are in custody. 15 foreign nationals and 4 Bahamians expected to be charged in court as well. He says this is not a case of irregular migrants coming into the country. He says this was a smuggling attempt to go out of the country into the U.S. The foreign nationals included 11 Haitians, 2 Chinese, and 2 Ecuadorians. The smuggling attempt comes as the Bahamas continues to experience an influx of irregular migrants from Cuba and Haiti. Haiti is in an economic and political security crisis Officials say Cuba is undergoing severe inflation. According to statistics recently released by the Commissioner of Police, Clayton Fernander, police shot and killed 10 people last year and injured 6. In 2021, police shot and killed 11 and injured another 9. Explanations provided for police-involved shootings are that officers were in fear for their lives during confrontations with suspects. The most recent shooting involving the death of an individual by police around 12:30 a.m. on January 21st. A 57-year-old man denied bail on a rape charge. Gary Talbot Cooper appeared before Assistant Chief Magistrate Subasola Swain, accused of the rape of a 21-year-old woman back on January 14th. Cooper not required to enter a plea to the charge, and bail was denied because the magistrate lacks the jurisdiction to consider bail for the offense. Cooper can seek bail, though, in the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeal affirming the 10-year sentence handed to a man for gun possession. Police caught Fritz Jefferod with a loaded 9mm pistol soon after he gunned down his girlfriend's sister and tried to kill her little brother on January 3rd, 2021. Jefferod appeared before the Court of Appeal via Zoom, seeking to challenge the severity of his sentence. Jefferod received the maximum sentence after he pleaded guilty to possession of an unlicensed firearm in January of last year, 2021 rather. However, Jefferod later abandoned his appeal after Justice of the Appeal John Isaacs pointed out that if successful on the appeal, Jefferod still wouldn't be freed from prison. That's because Jefferod was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment last September after he pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the shooting death of Jilny Farim. He was given a concurrent sentence of 10 years in prison for the attempted murder of her 10-year-old brother. Jefferod went to the family's home in the area known as the Farm in Treasure Key in Abaco and shot his victims. Police arrested him following a car chase and recovered the gun used in the crimes. He told police that he had an out-of-body experience during the shootings. Prime Minister Philip Davis says that the opposition and opposition leader Michael Pintard should stay out of his business regarding whether he should reshuffle his cabinet. Last week, Pintard called on Davis to reshuffle his cabinet to allow ministers to be given roles better suited to their expertise. Davis, while on the sidelines of an event on Cat Island yesterday, saying, quote, "They should stay out of my business. It is my administration, and I determine who's best suited and fit for the advancement of the nation that we have." Pintard specifically called out Works Minister Alfred Sayers, Transport Minister JoBeth Colby Davis. Sayers attracting controversy late last year due to his conflicting stories regarding a decision by the Davis administration not to conduct sanctions for BPL. And Colby Davis found herself at odds with the president of the Bahamas Taxi Cab Union after she issued hundreds of taxis per year. And the country has attracted more than 7 million tourists in 2022, signaling a return to pre-pandemic tourism arrivals. Tourism, Investment, and Aviation Minister Chester Cooper announcing this yesterday. He says that the fact that we've exceeded expectations and attracted more than 7 million visitors to the country, something only done once before in a single year. Overseas, most of the world continues to fail to fight corruption, with 95% of countries having made less since 2017. That's according to a closely watched study by an anti-graft organization. Transparency International's 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index, which measures the perception of public sector corruption according to experts and business people, also found that governments hampered by corruption lack the capacity to protect the people, while public discontent is more likely to turn into violence. According to the chairperson of Transparency International today, corruption has made our world, quote, a more dangerous place as governments have collectively failed to make progress against it. They fuel the current rise in violence and conflict and endanger people everywhere. The only way out of it is for states to do the hard work, rooting out corruption at all levels to ensure governments work for all people, not just an elite few. The report ranks countries on a scale from a highly corrupt, very clean 100. Denmark is seen as the least corrupt this year with 90 points, and Finland and New Zealand both follow closely at 87. Strong democratic institutions and regard for human rights also make these countries some of the most peaceful in the world. However, the report also shows that while Western Europe remains a top-scoring region, some of its countries are showing worrying signs of decline. The United Kingdom dropped 5 points to 73, its lowest ever score. The report said a number of scandals from public spending to lobbying, as well as revelations of ministerial misconduct, have highlighted woeful inadequacies in the country's political integrity systems. Public trust in politics low. Russia, in particular, was highlighted as a glaring example of corruption's impact on peace and stability. Only 8 countries improved last year, among them Ireland with 77 points, South Korea with 63, Armenia at 46, and Angola at 33. 180 countries and territories. Somalia was at the bottom with 12 points. South Sudan tied with Syria for second to last at 13. We'll find out where the Bahamas is and tell you shortly. In sports, the list of qualifiers for the Bahamas for the Terrific Games continues to grow. A number of productive performances achieved at the 3rd annual Oak Tree Sonia Knowles Track Classic. There were 3 qualifiers in the under-17 girls 400 meters hurdles alone, with 3 either matching or going under the standard 107. Darvanique Dean of the Hope enjoyed her first Crift experience, winning the race in a blazing personal best time of 1:01.45. She was nearly a full 3 seconds ahead of her second-place finisher, her teammate, Bailey Major, who ran in 104.18. You can read more about this in sports section. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your first look at weather for today, we've got deep layered ridging that will promote a stable weather pattern across the area today. Beachgoers should exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents along north and east coast beaches. For all areas, we're looking at mostly sunny and warm conditions, but a bit breezy across the central and southeast Bahamas today. Mostly fair and mild tonight. Small craft caution in effect across all areas due to swells. Winds east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots in the northwest Bahamas and easterly at 15 to 20 knots in the central and southeastern islands. Seas 2 to 4 feet but up to 6 feet in northeast to easterly swells in the northwestern islands, but 4 to 7 feet in the central and southeast Bahamas. Today we're currently at about 71 degrees, fair skies. Temperatures getting up into the mid-80s. It could feel even warmer than that, though. Highs around 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. It's still January, my goodness. Overnight lows tonight, though, getting Fahrenheit 20 Celsius. That's weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit. It's time for a break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Is your 2023 goal to move into your own home? Well, future homeowner, enjoy another payday. Build or buy a home with financing from CIBC First Caribbean, and you'll receive cash back every month for 1 year. A home is one of your greatest investments, so secure one soon. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/homeowners payday for more info. Offer valid from January 9 through to March 31, 2023. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you ready to break up with your car? Easy Car Sales invites you to fall in love with an electric vehicle. Ditch the gas pump, the expensive mechanics. Feel the freedom, the power. Visit easy242.com and make a date to test drive an electric vehicle today. Get into a better relationship. Find your perfect match at Easy Car Sales and drive electric happily ever after.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Already get the first set of knowledge. Now it's time to prepare you for college. You're thinking so much you gotta do. Legacy will handle that for you.
Hi, my name is Erica Morris, the president of Legacy College Readiness and Tours, a comprehensive college readiness firm. I'm reminded of my senior year in high school, the trepidation and insecurity I felt the closer my school years were coming to an end. I was afraid and unsure of what steps to take next. I needed a me, someone knowledgeable about the college and careers. And I know finding the best college fit can be a daunting and stressful task. And I'm here to eliminate that stress by providing a guided tour into you choosing the right college for you. For more information on how Legacy College Readiness and Tours can assist you, contact us at 242-809-5278. Email us at legacycollegetours@gmail.com.
Fidelity, we're good for you. In store, on the go, or both. Let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's still. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. 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 Wake up, wake up.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. I've got a special guest co-host today. He's been a guest a number of times on the show, but this is the first time co-hosting with me. Very pleased to welcome Alexis Burrows.
Good to be
Good
here.
morning, sir.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Let's pull that mic a little bit closer to you there.
Sure.
And let people know who might not be familiar with you, who Alexis Burrows is.
Oh, how you gotta put me on the spot?
Let's tilt that mic up a little
Sure.
bit there. Okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Wow, I wasn't ready for that. I was just coming to listen and talk. So yeah, I've been working in marketing for the better part of 10 years now. Started out doing websites, moved into worked at Kalina for a while, worked at Urca for a while, and now I'm at a doctor's hospital. So it's been a very interesting career journey. That we could probably break down at another time.
Yeah.
But, I've also done some podcasting work with 10th year seniors. So, kind of had a bit of experience here. And obviously in the marketing world, I've done a lot of appearances on radio and TV over the past few years. So, just dipping my toe in the water and seeing what this feels like on the other side of the desk.
Getting a little bit of everything there.
Yeah.
All right.
Basically.
All right. So here you go. Now co-hosting a show. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Good to have you with us this morning.
Good to be here.
Looking forward to the discussion. All right, we've got a lot going on this morning, so you're here on a very interesting day. We're going to be talking with the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. State Department about visa-free travel. It's still an option for Bahamians. We'll find out more about that. And what you need to know if you are planning on traveling. So whether that's for leisure or for school, we'll get some of that information in this morning in just a few minutes. That's coming up in this hour. Then in our 8 o'clock hour, that'll lead us into Morning Blend Business. We told you about this a little bit yesterday in our discussion with the Department of Inland Revenue, and you've been hearing about it in the news. Well, the government's making some adjustments, although as you heard yesterday, this was always supposed to be happening, but with VAT on medical transactions. They're making that change in April. The BIA, the Bahamas Insurance Association, is not exactly happy about this because they say this could impact consumers negatively. The government doesn't believe that, though. But we'll talk with the BIA this morning on why they are concerned and why you should be concerned, according to them. So we have a lot to get to on this Tuesday morning. Let's begin, though, with what's in the news. And in the news, Alexis, do you like politics? You follow politics?
I try not to.
It's hard around here, eh?
It is.
My goodness. The big headlines in the papers, the Prime Minister is saying to the opposition, stay out of my business. We'll get to that in a bit.
Oh, boy.
That's not surprising that he would say that. They all do that whenever anybody suggests, well, especially from the opposition, suggests it's time for some changes. That's the thing, because you get headlines from that. If you just say no comment,
right, then you have no story.
There'll be no story.
Right, but once you kind of give it anything like that, you get some legs.
Yeah.
I mean, but it comes with the territory, right?
I guess.
Like you don't sit in a position of authority or power at any level and not have expectations of people, quote unquote, being in your business, right?
Because is it really their business?
I mean, when you're the Prime Minister, it's kind of the public's business.
That's right.
To a degree.
We put you there to manage our business.
Correct. And you're in the public eye. You are the center of public attention much of your life in politics, especially frontline politics, So it does kind of come with the territory.
Yeah. But you'll see why in a moment, why he said that. Now, there's something inside that caught my eye. This is a bizarre story. It's and last week we had a whole string of these court stories that oh, man. Okay, so the headline is Court of Appeal affirms 10-year sentence given to man for gun possession. Our Arteezy Davis, who has truly the best beat covering court, my God. The Court of Appeal on Monday affirmed the 10-year sentence handed to a man for gun possession. Police caught Fritz Jeffrard with a loaded 9mm pistol soon after he gunned down his girlfriend's sister and tried to kill her little brother on January 3rd, 2021. Jeffrard appeared before the Court of Appeal via Zoom, seeking to challenge the severity of his sentence. 10 years, far too much for all that. Jeffrard received the maximum sentence after he pleaded guilty to possession of an unlicensed firearm. Not the shooting. Okay. Anyway, back in January 2021. However, Jeffrard later abandoned his appeal after Justice of Appeal John Isaacs pointed out that if successful on the appeal, Jeffrard still wouldn't be freed from prison. That's because Jeffrard was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment last September after he pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the shooting death of Jilny Flerum. So I guess she died. Yes, he did gun her down. And he was given a concurrent 10-year sentence in prison for the attempted murder of her 10-year-old brother.
Oh.
Right.
But, okay.
Right,
So
you got that?
So he's trying to fight against the extra
gun.
10 years for the gun possession.
Was it going to be an extra 10 years? Because we don't seem to do that around here. Everything is concurrent. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Concurrent means that it's all
Right.
rolled up into one.
But
so
you
what
got,
difference does it make?
you got a 10-year concurrent for the attempted murder of the kid.
Right.
But the gun thing, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, Jaffard went to the family home in the area. It gets even more interesting. Jaffard went to the family's home in the area known as the Farm in Treasure Key, Abaco, and shot his victims. Police arrested Jaffard following a car chase and recovered the gun used in the crimes. This is the part that Jaffard told police that he had an out-of-body experience during the shootings.
So his defense essentially was
He was possessed.
temporary
I don't know,
insanity.
insanity, something.
Well, that is a story that had a couple of twists and turns in it I didn't expect.
It is wild. Wow, car chase too.
This is my thing. I'm hearing so many charges, and we're talking about two. Obviously, the most important one, which is the one for manslaughter.
Yeah.
But then the other one as well. Like,
And how is that manslaughter? How is that? That's murder.
that's what it
That's
sounds.
murder. You went to the house. Come on.
Yeah, it sounds premeditated. I mean, I don't know how our laws are set up to differentiate between one or the other, but that sounds pretty intentional.
Well, they do that because we don't have degrees of murder, which we were advised to do years ago by the Privy Council. But because we don't, when they don't want to charge you with murder, they charge you with manslaughter. That's not manslaughter, though.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like manslaughter. Manslaughter, from my understanding, is more so it's just kind of in the heat of the moment,
Yeah.
right? Like you legitimately had an out-of-body experience. You weren't really
Right.
prepared to, and it just happened. But
Unless the out-of-body experience happened, he pulled the gun off the wall, which was there, framed there or something, and then
in his girlfriend's house?
yeah, and he took it, and oh boy, and then bam. But no, he went there with the gun. It sounds like, and
Yeah, but
that's
he
why he was
al-
charged with
he-
gun possession because he went there with
He
the gun.
also evaded police in a car chase.
in a car chase. But when your body's being controlled by other forces, you never know. But these are the things we're dealing with in the country, folks.
That's powerful stuff.
My goodness, yeah. So pick up the NASA Guardian for more wonderful stories like that. Boy. Anyway, okay, so back to the government and the Prime Minister. So our Jared Higgs writing about this. By the way, you can, if you have any comments about that previous story, text us 422-4796 or call in 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. All right, so Prime Minister Davis was in Cat Island yesterday. They opened a passport office there. Yeah. The 7th passport office to be opened in the country outside of New Providence. So that's great.
That's good.
Yeah. And, so while he was there, he was asked about what Michael Pintard said about whether he should shuffle the cabinet. Davis saying, quote, "They should stay out of my business. It is my administration, and I determine who's best suited and fit for the advancement of the nation that we have." Pintard had previously called out Works Minister Alfred Sayers and Transport and Housing Minister Jo Beth Colby Davis.
I mean, he's not wrong. It is his prerogative, is it not?
Yeah, I guess.
To a degree. I mean,
Yeah, man.
but like I said, this is all part and parcel of politics, right? When you're in power, the opposition will always find things to kind of come at you for, right? Whether it's justifiable or not. So like I said, that's kind of part and parcel. So you, like you said at the beginning, if you don't want to engage in the conversation, then just don't give it a comment,
Right.
because then you avoid. Well, not avoid. At least you can delay it. Perhaps you don't avoid it because eventually, people are gonna pick at it. But this is the nature of politics.
Sure.
You do this back and forth all the time.
Let me tell you what I would have done. So, because in the other paper, they're quoting the former prime minister, and almost every day he's in there. You see him more than the current leader of the FNM.
Opposition.
I would have said, I think Mr. Pintard should be more concerned about what's happening within his own party.
Well, there's that could be a way to go about it. But I mean, it does then,
Although it's not just again, his business. It is all of us.
Right.
And so yeah, and everybody is concerned about these
Right,
things.
and then,
But I would have thrown the shade, as they say.
Yeah. Dwight explaining why he can't be prime minister. Is that everything would be shade throwing back and forth.
Right, exactly. It would be a dark day. But let's see what you say, folks. What do you think? Is it time to shuffle the cabinet? Will that make any difference at all? Has it ever made a difference? Has any ministry improved dramatically when there was a shuffle? Or is it just more of the same? Or you have a new learning curve as you have to take a whole many months to get to know what's going on before there is any progress? Is there stalemate once that happens again? Let's hear from you. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. I'm trying to think.
I mean, I think it's an interesting question, right? So from my understanding, I know in a lot of the ministries, there's a lot of legwork that's done, through the PSs, through a lot of the folks in the ministry itself. So the learning curve, is it as steep if you're changing out the person at the top who may make the final decisions, but a lot of the work is done by the team and the ministry itself. Right. How much does that change in terms of swapping out the leader, in terms of the learning curve that person has, right? Because that's my understanding of
That's
it.
what they like to say.
Right.
Although,
ultimately, you are the final. If you are the final decision maker, then that still is critical, right? Because you have to then parse the information that's placed before you to say, okay, we're doing this, we're not doing that, we're going into this direction or another direction, right? But it's interesting because I guess that does become a part of the conversation is what is the learning curve if you're changing out the head of a ministry mid-term, right? What does that look like meaningfully when you talk about the actual nuts and bolts of how the ministry operates?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, does that matter as much? Because I mean, a lot of times we still operate on the direction, like I imagine, of the prime minister, right? So, and I think maybe that's why he takes it personal, because if you're saying shuffle the cabinet, but in a lot of ways those decisions still come partially to you,
right?
Then what you're saying is you're not attacking my cabinet, you're attacking me, and therefore I'm telling you to stay out of my business.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
And that might be the I'm not getting into the mind of the man, but that might be kind of the thought process in going through it and then responding in that way.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, but maybe folks, you can recall, if we've done this in the past and you notice a dramatic improvement in one of the ministries and the other one goes down, what does that mean about that minister? And do we do anything about that going forward? I can't recall because it seems like the people just keep coming back no matter what.
Right.
But do we pay attention to that?
That's a good question. Because, I mean, we've had people move on from ministries for a lot of different reasons. Not necessarily, I don't imagine, a full shuffling of the entire cabinet. A different person stepping in to take over a ministry, like I said, for a number of different reasons, even going back looking at the last government.
Right.
So I think the question just becomes, the learning curve question is one, and then just what is the meaningful change that comes about? Because then where do you put the person that you moved from one ministry? Do you put them somewhere else, or are they just sidelined? How does that work? Where does that person end up? But I mean, what was Pintard's issue? So I traverse Village Road. I can understand what some of the issues might have been with regards to works. Just looking at that project alone. I mean, I'm happy now. It's almost fully paved as of this morning.
Almost.
But what was some of the concerns raised about the different ministers as to why Pintard thought it would be beneficial to shuffle the cabinet?
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned Village Road. You also talked about BPL with Sears and the issue with the fuel hedging that went back and forth for a long time. With Colby Davis, his issue was with, well, I don't know if this was his issue, but she definitely was involved in controversy with the taxi cab union. And I think people have been concerned about this alleged situation with hitting the police officer.
Right. And
so all that stuff there. But yeah, I don't know if he meant only those two, but those are the two that he specifically called out. So
I mean, roadworks is a thing unto itself, right? Like you and I have both lived through a number of major roadworks projects in our lifetime. Like to the point where I don't even remember what Shirley Street used to look like, but I know I lived through them redoing Shirley Street and making it, the dual carriageway, one direction, that sort of thing.
Right.
Roadworks never takes the amount of time that they say it's supposed to take, right? So you factor in weather, you factor in all these different things. So like I said, for me, it's been a personal struggle having to drive Village Road every day.
And I think that ministry is challenged. Works, has there been a minister who's been able to really get a handle on works?
Right.
And that includes, again, BPL and the utility companies. It's tough.
Yeah,
It's very difficult.
I think one of the questions is, have we done research? Like you look at the world, and so much of it is driven by data, right? So the question becomes, okay, so when you look at the data, is it sufficiently staffed? Do we have all of the right equipment? Do we have the most up-to-date equipment? Is there a way that this process can be done where it's done faster? Like kind of all of those sorts of things. Because I know one of the challenges is driving down Village Road in particular as a particular note. You drive by one day, you see a hole was closed, and you come back the next day and the same hole is reopened, right? And so you do kind of have this. Well, okay, are the people that we have running the project, are they fully qualified to do to that extent? So it's like all of these questions that you're gonna have to bring to the table. And so does that fall at the feet specifically of the minister in terms of determining that, doing that sort of thing? Because like I said, for me, I look at it from a standpoint of so much of how decisions are made nowadays is done through data. So what does the data say about that particular ministry, especially if it's been challenged for a number of administrations, not just this particular one? Then does the minister matter? Is that even the point of contention? Is it what is actually happening in the functioning of the ministry and down to the nitty-gritty details of equipment, staffing, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, I've said it before, and others have said it previously, but not enough for saying it, that I believe the Ministry of Works needs to be disbanded. We do not need a giant Ministry of Works for the whole country. This needs to be broken up into smaller bodies that are specifically tasked with group manageable projects in certain regions. And I think we get a lot more done if we did it like that, as opposed to one giant ministry that has to make decisions about which one is more important. We'll never get things right if we continue to do it like this. This makes no sense to me.
Right. So almost
at
like
all.
Local government, you have a localized Ministry of Works, even if it's for constituency or well, not even constituency, but like island grouping, that sort of thing. When you start to talk about going into the family islands,
absolutely. I don't understand this. I don't get it.
I mean, I imagine you and I could sit down and parcel that out and say, well, you put these 3 islands together and have a section for that. You have, maybe Providence may have 2 or 3 sections, that sort of thing. But
you got it.
Yeah, I imagine that's.
Can you imagine how much more efficient that would be?
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, if a part of the problem is the bloatedness of the workload and how much they have to kind of parcel through, then perhaps that may be a solution is, well, just decentralize it, right? I mean, that's another thing that we've seen happening as businesses change and expand, is the decentralization of certain roles. So perhaps and that's what you're talking about, essentially. That may be an option, because you're right, managing, okay, who's doing what when, and who goes first, and then what do we interrupt this project for?
Exactly.
That does become cumbersome when you're looking, especially because the makeup of our country being an archipelago. There's so many things that you have to consider, even in terms of just transporting stuff back and forth to deal with things on a different island. So perhaps having it decentralized in that way might make more sense.
Yeah, and that's not the only ministry that needs to be.
Oh boy.
Anyway, but let's read these text messages before we have to take a break. This person says here, Dwight, with how our contracts to the cronies, we have to be. Oh, this is about the corruption index. I'm going to find that out in a few minutes. I'm going to go through the list to see where we fall out of 180 countries. Did we improve? We'll see. This person says that when Pintard was moved to fisheries, though, that ministry improved. Okay. There was a lot going on when he was there. That's true. This person says that we will stay out of Philip Davis's business when he gives us our sovereign wealth funds. Okay. Wireless opposition leader, Mr. I don't know nothing about nothing Davis, had all the answers to the country's ills. Now that he's in the seat of power, he's just as lost as that Malaysian flight. That's not cool. Why are you bringing that up like that? That's not cool, Texter. Anyway, these people are a joke and take us for fools.
I love Bahamians.
Don't bring in that flight, though. That's not cool.
Bahamians. You take nothing seriously.
Oh, boy. I think that the PM should start addressing his plans for San Salvador and Rum Key as well. He is a 3-island MP, is he not? Yeah, oh boy. So you're feeling only Cat Island's getting the attention, you think? This person says here, Dwight, the Prime Minister is right. Mr. Pintard sat in Dr. Minnis' cabinet for 5 years, and never once I heard him tell Dr. Minnis, why would you hear that? Why would you hear that? That's crazy. Come on now. Anyway, I think the Bahamas is moving forward, so why shuffle now? And okay, shuffling the deck won't change the fact that it's full of jokers.
That's a good one.
That's a very good one.
That's a good one.
I like that one. One thing a cabinet shuffle will do is make work for that poor person who is in charge of switching out the official photos of the ministers.
Like I said, he take nothing seriously.
Well, they haven't had anything to do for 2 years, so it's about time, right? No?
Oh, my God.
Is that all that they do? You won't be surprised. Oh, wow. Okay, shuffling the cabinet is Brave Davis's business? Isn't that a function of the Bahamian government, of which the official opposition is a part and has an interest? We really need to stop these sideshows with all these hikes and taxes. This country must be on the verge of a cliff. We don't have time for the petty games. Okay, all right. And this person says the Prime Minister needs to put aside his ego and realize he does need to shuffle his cabinet, and it wouldn't be the first time it's happened. Hurry and get rid of, Keith Bell as Minister of Immigration. He's almost comical now in that position. My goodness. Okay. Another one here. You are overlooking the most critical impact on business. So many small businesses were destroyed in the Shirley Street area for Greater Atlantis. Okay, we're not overlooking it, just, okay, but sure. And this text here, it's time to get rid of the government if the leader cannot make changes to get results. People with honor step down, but let incompetence last 5 years. Davis's claim that the administration is his, so the failures any of his team have are all on him. The opposition is trash too, knowing that they can do more in terms of governing rather than going for gotcha moments. But hold your breath before Pintard says what the FNM will do. Hold it or don't. Which one? Anyway. Oh, boy. Okay. Everybody's got a lot to say. A lot to say there.
The point about leadership is accurate, though. This is something that I've in my time. It's, as a leader, the successes and failures of your team is, your success and failure, right? So you can't present yourself as succeeding if your team is failing. Mm-hmm. And that is very much true. And in the same way, as your team succeeds, that's your success, because no matter how you look at it, either you're enabling them, you're empowering them to succeed, right? You're stepping in where they need assistance and filling in blanks and gaps for them. And so that is not an untrue statement. It's very true that, the success of the success and failure of the team sits on the shoulders of the leader, because you are responsible for leading that team. So that's it's in politics, it gets to be an interesting conversation, but that is kind of the dynamic of how things should be, in that it is that you take that responsibility.
Yeah. All right, we've got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking, U.S. State Department, we're going to be talking about visa-free travel and a whole lot more. That's when we get back. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
In a jokey town, a three-ring circus, what a bunch of clowns. They're joking and they're jiving, but they're messing around. We got some jokey leaders, what a bunch of clowns. When I look in at their face, they chuckle and then giggling like something sweet in there. We drowning in crime, boy, ain't no jokes out here.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
time for a quick look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialist can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. In your real-time traffic this morning, we've got Mile Butler Highway seeing the heavy traffic from Fire Trail straight up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. Similar story on Gloucester Road, northbound, just north of Fire Trail. Elsewhere, we've got some building traffic on Soldier Road near Windsor Place and on Blue Hill near Carmichael and just north of Soldier Road. And then, of course, on Prince Charles Drive near the major intersections like Beatrice Avenue and Fox Hill Road, and Eastern Road building near Fox Hill on the way to Johnson Road. That's what we're seeing so far. That's your real-time traffic and your morning blend traffic alert, brought to you by RBC.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist. And a quick check of weather. We've got deep layered ridging that will promote a stable weather pattern across the area today. Beachgoers should exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents. For all areas, look for partly sunny and warm conditions, but a bit breezy across the central and southeastern islands. Mostly fair and mild tonight. Temperatures getting up to around 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. In an extended outlook, that high-pressure ridge will remain the dominant weather feature across the area while producing gentle to fresh winds throughout the week. So for Wednesday, tomorrow, mostly sunny and warm. Thursday, mostly sunny, warm, and a bit breezy. That's your morning blend weather check. We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with my special guest co-host, Alexis Burrows. We've got a busy morning this morning, as we've been telling you. So right now, we are going to talk with the Deputy Assistant Secretary with the Visa Service Bureau and Visa Services in the Bureau of Consular Affairs with the United States. We've got Deputy Assistant Secretary Julie Swift with us. Good morning. Great to have you on Morning Blend this morning.
Good morning, Dwight. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so we've a lot to talk with you about, but visa-free option for Bahamians. Let's talk about it because a lot of people don't think about that. They quickly rush to get their visas, but let's talk about that. And is this something that we can expect will continue for the foreseeable future?
Yes, thank you so much. First, I just want to say that this is my first visit ever to the Bahamas, and I'm just amazed across the board with the country, the people, the embassy and the work they've done to reduce visa wait times. But in particular, this visa-free construct that you mentioned is so unique. I believe it's just Canada and the Bahamas that have this.
Oh, wow.
And so that speaks, of course, to the great relationship between our two countries. And again, I want to also congratulate the Bahamas on the 50th anniversary of independence. But this partnership that we have is so unique. I was just absolutely amazed at the airport yesterday when I toured the facility. The idea of a country that's in such close partnership with the United States, that we have visa-free travel, works as well as it does, is just fantastic. And I'm responsible for global visa operations, operations around the entire world.
Okay.
So I really had to come here to see what this visa-free travel regime looks like, and I'm just so impressed. There is no change anticipated to this. If it's working for both of our countries, of course we will continue it. But it's really just gratifying for me to see this and see how well it's working.
That is fantastic. Okay, so let's talk a little more about the background of this. Do you know how this came about and why the Bahamas and Canada? Again, you say we have a wonderful relationship, of course, but that it's remained in place is very special indeed. Tell us more about that from your perspective.
It is. I mean, this has been in place for, I think, many decades, and it's really a testament to the fact that it's worked through many, many changes. While we've changed visa regimes in many, many countries all over the world, this one has stayed in place. So this really speaks to the close cooperation between our two governments and the importance of travel for citizens of our countries to each other's countries.
Yeah, and if you think about it, especially in a post 9/11 world, the fact that we maintain that is very very amazing. Actually, I personally appreciate this initiative. I know, so with the pandemic, a lot of people didn't travel. You weren't able to travel for a while. So my wife and I were getting ready to travel last year, right around Easter time. And when we went and we booked the tickets, we were just checking all the documents and we were like, your visa's expired. Uh-oh. So we had to go through the process of going to get the police record and all of that sort of stuff. But I mean, it's a beautiful thing because, you're planning, and especially if it's just a quick trip and you realize, hold on, wait, I don't have everything I need. Having this in place is a lifesaver, because for us, we would have had to do a lot of maneuvering otherwise in terms of moving our travel around in order to make that work if we had to go through the visa process. So for me, I mean, I've personally benefited from this initiative, and it's something that I know, especially growing up, we used to do a lot, especially as a kid.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Julie?
I think I do want to say too, if I can, this is not what people around the world are experiencing. We've got, because many of our visa sections around the world were closed down during the pandemic, obviously, like so many other businesses and offices, we have these pent-up demand, these wait times. Some are very, very long in countries. And the fact that we have this visa-free regime that you just described is a perfect example. We've got, I think the embassy here has cut their visa wait time down by half. And that wouldn't be possible in a situation where we didn't have this steam valve of the visa-free travel in place.
Right. Do you have any numbers, Julie, as to the percentages of the people who travel without the visa, or numbers that do travel, Bahamians who do travel with visas? Would you have any numbers at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have my colleague here from the consular section who can answer that.
Good morning. So we actually found these statistics out yesterday, which were fascinating to us. Of the 25% of non-U.S. travelers going through the airport here, 12% of those are Bahamians who are using or taking advantage of this visa-free waiver process.
Wow.
So we're excited to see that. More significant than we were expecting.
Okay. All right, that's very interesting. All right, so you talked about it, how the wait times for visas. Let's run through that system. How long generally does it take, and what are some things that people need to keep in mind when applying?
Well, certainly we always advise everyone to apply as early as possible. Once you have a visa, really our goal in Washington is that anyone who has a U.S. visa is in a one-touch process, meaning you only really have to come to the embassy for the visa one time. And after that, you can renew in perpetuity. So our goal is to have the visa process itself be that easy, aside from the visa-free process. Mm-hmm. And that extends well beyond tourists. I mean, we're talking a lot about travel and visitation, but we really encourage, of course, Bahamian students, business travel investors, every type of visa that we do. We need to have low wait times for those. And I'm just really proud of the progress that the embassy here has made to reduce those wait times. And you asked how long, and I think several months, and it'll probably keep going down to historically low levels for the wait.
Yeah, and when to apply for the visa? You shouldn't let it expire. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Ideally, you can, if you're keeping track of it. These are 10-year multiple entry. So if you have a 10-year multiple entry tourist visa, as an example. At any point within the 4 years after it expires, you can reapply without appearing again for an interview. This is huge. And this is actually helping us reduce our wait times all over the world. We have new authorities that allow us to skip interviews for visa applicants who have already traveled to the U.S. successfully. And this makes it easier, obviously, for our clients, for visa applicants and visa holders, but also for us, because if we're seeking to have hundreds of thousands of people come through our embassies, we need to reduce the number of times we touch those applications.
All right, let's talk a little more about that, the interview waiver. How long has that been in place now?
It's been in place for a long time. I think the tourist visa interview waiver for a certain expiration has been in place maybe for years at this point worldwide. But what we've done differently is say that visa applicants in different categories can cross those categories. So if you were a student, now you can come without an interview for a tourist visa appointment. If you were a flight crew member, now you can come for the tourist visa or a student visa. So allowing people who have traveled before and who are known to CBP in the United States to travel again without coming for an interview when they're low-risk travelers has been really, really helpful to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, you mentioned students, and we know we have a lot of Bahamians who are going to school in the U.S. If they have a travel visa and they want to get a student visa, what do they need to know, the differences there, and whether they still have to do the interview? You mentioned that just now, but let's talk more about that.
Sure. Well, for students, because it's such a priority for the United States, there's almost no wait time for a student visa. I think it's just a couple of days, right, Jessica? So it's this is true for students anytime students are applying, because the higher education sector is so important to us, and it's so important to the United States to have international students coming in. So there's really no advice that I would give you because I think that it's just getting the application together and coming, and we will make that application a priority for the student.
Oh, wonderful stuff. And of course, you all are always encouraging students to choose the United States for tertiary education.
Yes, absolutely. We believe that the United States is the higher education location of choice for the entire world. We're seeing increases in international students after the pandemic, which is great, and we're very excited for that. We want Bahamian students to be part of that, of course.
All right, we're getting some really interesting questions on our text line, and you can continue to text us, listeners, 422-4796. Haven't heard this recently, but anyway, is the visa-free travel only for vaccinated travelers?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just checking with my colleagues. It appears that you do have to be vaccinated to enter.
Okay.
So I don't think those two concepts are tied together necessarily, but there is a requirement for vaccination to enter the United States for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And another one here. Can Bahamians enter the USA from another country with their police records, or do you have to have a visa?
In those cases, one would need a visa.
Yeah.
So if anyone is traveling from other places or they're entering through any other location other than here in Nassau at the airport, then they would certainly want to just go ahead and have that safety valve of getting a visa.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very unique, as I've said, a very unique relationship that we have that's only limited to two countries. And so it is restricted in the sense that you have to be coming from here. This is where we have the ability to run it.
Right. But it's not just restricted to New Providence, right? Because I know we have international flights out of, I think, Grand Bahama, and I think they were bringing on some others in Exuma or Lucille, if I remember correctly.
Maybe
right.
Abaco.
Right. So it's the country at large, right, in terms of being able to travel without the visa.
So it is available to the country at large. At this time, though, following Hurricane Dorian and the damage that was done up there in Freeport, you do have to come through the airport here in Nassau.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good wrinkle for people to know.
And that other voice, we didn't introduce to Jessica. That's Acting Consular Chief Jessica Elmshauser. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Great to have you with us as well.
I'm sorry I didn't introduce Jessica because she has been the leader who's made a lot of this happen. It's really amazing to meet her in person and the whole embassy team here.
And Jessica, one day I hope we'll meet you in studio. Good to have you with us. This question here, I'm not sure I understand it, but anyway, can you speak to business and work visas? So I guess that's work permits, perhaps. What can you tell us about that? That's a whole other show, eh?
Sure. We have we generally think of it in two categories. One, a business travel as a tourist travel visa, and then also work visas, which would be tech workers or workers who are going to support certain industries in the United States, like the hospitality industry. These are really, really important to us. I mean, I can say that these are big policy issues for the entire U.S. government. This is also a process that we prioritize on the visa front. So once the documentation is in order, there's a very, very short wait time for these types. Mm-hmm. We certainly welcome everyone working legally in the United States because it's important to us to have that inbound labor flow for those who are interested and qualified.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting a question about the interview. If your first time getting a visa, what is that interview process like, and what do folks need to know about it?
Well, I think, and I'll turn to Jessica here too. I have my own experience, but it is shockingly straightforward. I think most people are surprised at how easy that process is to have an interview. It allows us to collect biometrics, to speak brief traveler to find out what the intentions are. And that's usually it. These go very quickly. And again, this is the only touch point that's needed for most people going forward for the rest of their life for getting a visa. Jessica, how is it here?
Yeah, I know that a visa interview is usually a stressful time for folks. They seem to get themselves worked up, but I would just want to reassure you that we do try and make it a stress-free process for you. It's usually a very quick interview. People are very surprised. Sometimes you can be in and out in less than an hour, and the actual interview is just a few minutes. And I know folks feel compelled, or we've received messages to say that they don't have all their documents ready. You don't actually need to come. You don't need to bring us a lot of documents. We're really here. We want to talk to you, hear about your travel plans, make sure that they make sense, and then see how that goes. But we do always welcome questions, and there's information on our website to help waylay some of those fears that people have.
Mm-hmm. Julie Stuft, I think you mentioned 4 years if your visa is expired, right? Before you have to perhaps do another interview. But, this person's asking, when applying for a visa, will an interview be waived if I've been traveling to the U.S. several times a year for many, many years on a police record? My visa expired many years ago. How many is too many before you need to get that interview again?
Yeah, unfortunately, that 4-year piece, 48 months is how it's referred to in U.S. regulations, is a requirement. Mm-hmm. So for someone who is just for the first time getting a visa, or it's been a very, very long time since he or she has had a visa, we would just recommend coming in for that interview, getting on record, having it go quickly, and then it won't be a problem going forward.
Yeah. Okay. Another text here. Can you elaborate more on recent or former students with visas wanting to obtain a travel visa? So I guess they've had their student visa, but now, that shouldn't be that much of a challenge. But what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we were finding in many large visa markets in many countries around the world that people who had been living or studying in the United States were still waiting for a tourist visa, for example, after their home country. And we worked with the Department of Homeland Security and the White House and others in Washington to allow the interview for one visa type to cross over to the next, to make that a little easier. For low-risk travelers, that is absolutely the best option. And so for Bahamian students who have been in the United States, who are now seeking a tourist visa, that is absolutely an option.
Okay, wonderful. This is a text from a Family Islander, I think. They're saying, my visa has expired over 1 year. Do I have to travel to Nassau for renewal?
So we have an easy process to help you figure that out. We know it can be confusing. So if you go onto our website and you go to schedule a visa appointment, it will actually walk you through step by step, and then the system will automatically tell you whether you need it in person or you can mail it in. So we would say the easiest way to figure it out for your own situation is to go to our website, schedule a visa appointment, and then answer those questions as honestly and completely as possible, and then it will point you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Another question, because you mentioned it a couple of times, this idea or this concept of traveler. Can you perhaps define for our audience, what a low-risk traveler is, what that definition looks like?
Yeah, thanks. In that context, I would clarify what I'm talking about is previous travel to the United States. So if someone has routinely, in the example that you gave earlier, traveled to the U.S. on a police certificate, or has been a student, or has a previous visa that expired at some point in recent years, we would consider these to be potentially low-risk travelers because he or she has already gone to the States and come back many, many times in some cases. And do we actually need to interview that person, or can we do it without an interview? Of course, if we need an interview in any situation, we will ask for an applicant to come into the embassy. But if we don't need to do that, we won't.
Okay. All right. Here's another text question. I'm a student in Canada. My U.S. visa expires next month. I will still be in school in Canada. How do I go about renewing my U.S. visa?
You're allowed to apply where you're physically located. So probably one of the best options is to see if you can get an appointment in Canada. I do know some of the wait times, like we talked around the world, are a bit higher. But of course, again, with the student visas, we do try to expedite those. And so you're always free to reach out through our system to see if you can qualify for one of those expedite appointments. But we are happily accepting appointments in April, May, June, July. We've got lots of availability to accomplish that.
Okay. And I can assure you, based on what I know, that the wait time will be lower here if that student comes back for a visit than it would be in Canada.
Okay. All right. Jessica, maybe this is for you. They're asking the current cost of a visa, or maybe Julie, I don't know. What's the current cost? They're saying, has it changed from $160?
No, it has not changed.
Okay, it's still at $160.
Although I can't, it will change in the future. I mean, this is there's a cost study that is done every few years, and I know that that's being done right now. So if the cost of the service has increased, we will increase the fee. If it hasn't, we never will. Or in some cases, we actually do reduce the fee.
Okay. All right. Another text. My 10-year visa expires this month. I had to select an interview date for myself, husband, and 14-year-old daughter. Is the interview for all of us, or because my daughter has to now be fingerprinted?
Tricky. So that is something we're trying to figure out with our system to see if we can help break those up. So I am not able to give a direct answer, but I would say that definitely probably coming in because the daughter does now need to be fingerprinted. A 14-year-old for their first visa, if they haven't been fingerprinted, wouldn't qualify for the interview waiver program. And then because they are a minor, we do like to see the parents at the same time with them, just to make sure that we keep the whole family together and we can give you the matching validity dates and just make it easier for you guys as you're traveling.
Okay. All right. This text, a lot of COVID questions still. With travel, do children have to have the COVID vaccination? Are they required?
I actually don't believe so.
I think we would have to BC on that one, and we can try and find some follow-up information on that one for you, because I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously the CDC requirements for regarding COVID are changing over time. I mean, they've been stable for, I think, a while, but that's a good point. I do think that children are exempted from that, but the CDC site would say for sure.
Okay. This is an interesting one here. What if you have been to jail in the U.S. 20 years ago, but since have been gainfully employed with the same job and have a stable family? Why the repeated refusals?
So every interview is specific to the circumstances, and every interviewee who's trying to gain a visa has to meet a certain set of criteria. And so we have to look at the whole picture of a person's history, any reform, and how we predict that they'll travel in the future. So every case is unique, so I can't provide a specific answer, but we always welcome people to apply and be truthful in the window and present their case to us.
Okay. Why do I have to be traveling to the U.S. in order to apply for my visa? Case in point, I just got the visa. I'm trying to understand the text. I just got the visa even though I'm not traveling. Sometimes we have to say we are traveling just to have it processed. Okay. All right. Interesting question. What say you to that one? If you don't have any travel plans, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. All over the world, we're seeing people applying who don't have immediate travel plans just so that they can have the opportunity in the future, especially with 10-year visas, to do so. So it is not a requirement to state immediate travel plans to get a U.S. visa, just to show that you have an intention of using the visa correctly.
Okay. One more text, and then time has gone by very quickly. Wow. I'm now an invalid, and I need to get a visa and have to come in for an interview. My visa expired a number of years ago. There's no question there, but I guess they're asking if they can be accommodated. I'm sure they can. But
absolutely. Yeah, we can absolutely who might be needing to bring in mobility devices or have someone assist them to the window. Like we can absolutely accommodate those requests.
This one here. If you have your visa and it expires in 2 years, but it's in your old passport, but you have to come in with your kids anyway. Can you get the new visa at this time to get it in the new passport while you get your kids sorted out? Because traveling with the 2 passports is not fun. But are you able to do that 2 years ahead of time?
You are able to renew your visa at any point. We, of course, would encourage you to use out those 2 years to enjoy them because you did pay for them. However, if you would like to change just to make it ease of access, for sure, just schedule an appointment and then we can take care of that for you. I know there's been some concerns recently. People have been asking us if you can travel on a visa and an expired passport. And as long as you have that visa still intact, you haven't ripped it out of your passport, but it's still intact in your expired passport, and you bring that with your current passport, I've confirmed with our Customs and Border Protection folks that is still a valid way to travel as well.
Yeah. All right. And Julie, I don't know if you can say, but how long you're here for and how you'll be doing while you're here?
I'm just here for a short visit, but it's so exciting to be able to finally visit. I'm going to see the new embassy under construction. This is going to be just such a huge thing for the city and for our team here to have an embassy that reflects the importance of our relationship. And you know, Dwight, my job in Washington is to innovate visa services around the globe. And to see this very unique situation that's working so well and has worked so well for decades in visa-free travel in the Bahamas is really, it's a bucket list thing for me professionally to see this. So very, very excited to be here and certainly excited to come on Morning Blend with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know people are wondering, when will the new the embassy be open?
Next year is what I'm hearing.
Okay, all right. That is wonderful stuff. Julie Stuff, it is wonderful talking with you. Great meeting you like this, and hopefully we get to see you in person at some point. But great talking with you this morning. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Dwight.
And Jessica Elmshauser, welcome. Great to have you with us as well, and looking forward to more discussions with you.
Thank you, Dwight.
All right. We're going to take a break and be back with more. This is Morning Blend. Dwight Strong with my special guest co-host, Alexis Burrows, today. We have a lot more coming up after the news. Stay with us.
I hopped off the plane at LAX with a dream, my cardigan. Welcome to the land of fame excess. Am I gonna fit in? Jumped in the cab, here I am for the first time. Look to my right and I see the Hollywood sign. This is all so crazy. Everybody seems so famous. My tummy's turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. That's when the taxi man turned on the radio and a Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. And the Jay-Z song was on. So I put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. Nodding my head like yeah. Moving my hips like yeah. Got my hands up to play my song. I know I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. It's a party in the USA. Yeah. It's a party in the USA. Get to the club in my taxi cab. Everybody's looking at me now. Like, who's that chick that's rocking kicks? She gotta be from out of town. So hard with my girls on around me. It's definitely not a Nashville party. Cause all I see are stilettos. I guess I never got the memo. My tummy's turning and I'm feeling kinda homesick. Too much pressure and I'm nervous. That's when the DJ dropped my favorite tune.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for your smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas, Channel 969, and BTC Flow, Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend at 969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strong with Alexis Burrows, my guest co-host today. And now at 8:18, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. Here's what's happening. We've got deep layered ridging that will promote a stabler weather pattern across the area. Beachgoers should exercise caution due to the risk of rip currents along north and east coast beaches. So for today, for all areas, we're looking at mostly sunny and warm conditions, a bit breezy along, especially across the central and southeast Bahamas, and mostly fair and mild tonight. A small craft caution is in effect across all areas due to swells. Temperatures today getting up to around 84 Fahrenheit, 29 Celsius for highs. Lows tonight getting down to about 68 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius. In your extended outlook, that high pressure ridge will remain the dominant weather feature across the area while producing gentle to fresh winds across the islands throughout the middle of the week or throughout the week. And so for tomorrow, Wednesday, mostly sunny and warm for the first day of February. Small craft caution will be in effect for the central and southeast Bahamas. Thursday, mostly sunny, warm, and a bit breezy. That small craft caution will continue for the central and southeast Bahamas. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First. Visit firstonlineinsurance.com and select a Bahamas First agent to purchase, pay, or renew your home or car insurance 100% online, or just stop by any Bahamas First agent. Bahamas First, celebrating 40 years as the first Bahamian general insurance company. What's first for you comes first for us. And at 8:21, time for another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC's mortgage specialists can provide helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. In your real-time traffic this morning, seeing a lot of hotspots for you, including, as usual, Mile Butler Highway, heavy traffic from well south of the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to Tonique-Williams-Darling Highway in the northbound lanes there. And Tonique-Williams-Darling Highway building traffic westbound to that roundabout at this hour, eastbound as well to Bahamas Games Boulevard. And a bit of westbound traffic to that roundabout as well. So Gladstone Road's busy for you, just north of Fire Trail, the northbound lanes. And Carmichael Road westbound to Coral Harbor Road. You're going to be seeing some congestion there. Heavy traffic eastbound on Carmichael to Blue Hill Road, which is seeing congestion from St. Vincent all the way up to the roundabout with Independence Drive, especially north of Soldier Road. Independence Drive back to both directions, west and eastbound at this hour. Soldier Road, heavy traffic at the intersection of East Street and on your way through to Windsor Place, and again north of Prince Charles and Robinson Road as you approach Bernard Village and Wolf Road. Eastern Road, heavy traffic from east of Foxhill to Johnson Road and Prince Charles Drive. Delays there as you approach Beatrice Avenue and Elizabeth Estates and Fox Hill Road. Those areas are congested for you. Heavy traffic again on Soldier Road, as we mentioned, and Bernard Road westbound near the schools in the area. Six-leg roundabout also seeing some issues this morning from multiple directions, northbound and eastbound on JFK Drive. West Bay Street as you approach the roundabout at Saunders Beach with New Providence Highway. Slow going for you there as well. So a number of places to keep in mind this morning. Good luck to you on your commute. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist. We'll be back with more Morning Blend after these messages.
Whether you're looking for your first or new home or even using your existing home as equity, RBC understands that your journey to home ownership is unique and your mortgage financing should reflect that. That is why at RBC we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Good morning, everyone. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I see we have just about everyone, and of course, Tom drops off, as per usual. Let's just wait a minute here. He always comes right back, and we're almost ready, and... oh, whoever's dog that is, please go on mute. Why won't it let me share my screen? Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
We're like a video conference with no technical issues. CG Atlantic, agents and brokers. Good like that.
Fidelity, we're good for you. With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Is your 2023 goal to move into your own home? Well, future homeowner, enjoy another payday. Build or buy a home with financing from CIBC First Caribbean, and you'll receive cash back every month for 1 year. A home is one of your greatest investments, so secure one soon. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/homeowners payday for more info. Offer valid from January 9 through to March 31, 2023. Terms and conditions apply.
With over 25 years in business, nothing says commitment to our people, culture, and service like Rev. And this year is no different. We will continue to elevate your home experience for you to create and share memories for years to come, while keeping you connected to the people and things you love most. Our pledge to provide quality service each year remains true. Rev is made for you.
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
KB and Sting, coming with the Bahamian team. Come on, woo! Oh yeah! Yes! I's a Bahamian, hair and born and bred. I don't want to live nowhere else, even when I dead. I's a Bahamian. And I always late. If you want me there by 9, better tell me come 8.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with my special guest co-host Alexis Burrows, who's revealing some very interesting things about himself this morning. We're going to get into that on the air. Coming up in a few minutes, we're looking forward to this. We are going to have a discussion with the Bahamas Insurance Association. They here to talk about, because they're going to have to break it down, because Alexis and I were talking about this off here as well. We don't know if we understand it, what's going on here, what the government's proposing to do, and how this is going to work. But it's going to be a great conversation coming up in just a couple of minutes, and that's going to head into business as well, Morning Blend business. All right, but we were talking about Jazz Chisholm, and let's talk about that, what's going on there. We saw that yesterday.
Right, so Jazz Chisholm, it was announced yesterday, is going to be the cover athlete for MLB The Show 2023. So it's the annual video game for baseball. And I know I saw some of the commentary online, and people weren't sure how big of a deal it was, because
Bahamians?
Because they were saying, well, like, Clay has been in the video games, and and I'm like, yeah, they've been in the games. However, having a Bahamian as the cover star is a really big deal. So even in the commercial, it refers to his roots. And so this is like the commercial for the game that's going out to the entire world is talking about his roots of how he learned playing baseball, how they would play 6-on-6, all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then bringing that to Major League Baseball. So it's a cool thing. We've not had someone that's been singularly a cover athlete on a video game. People say what they say about video games, but it's a really cool thing.
No, that is a big deal. Absolutely.
And I was in some of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in, we're having conversation. I'm hoping, because we do have a lot that happens with baseball here with Freedom Farm and stuff like that. I have like some of my wife's cousins that played in Freedom Farm, and you look at somebody like Jazz, and what I'm hoping is seeing it get to this level where, we've seen the MLB kind of promote him and show him in a lot of other ways. But when you tie it into video games, which a lot of kids are into, you look at it, it's like, not only can I play baseball, but now I have the idea of, I can be on the cover of the video game one day. And I think it's just like anything else. I don't want to overstep, but it's like when Barack became president, right? It shows you that you can do this. So it's like, it just shows you that next level of what can be achieved.
Yeah.
And, Jordan's been on the cover of games. You have going into wrestling, which I'm sure you'll back around to, it's like you're like Stone Cold or Roman Reigns. Like it's that sort of thing. So you get this idea of being the face, essentially, of Major League Baseball for the entire run of the promotion of this game, which is a really big deal. And I think
absolutely,
as Bahamians, we should be very proud of it, because that's an accomplishment.
Fantastic stuff there, folks. Tell us what you think about it. That is a great thing, and I'm proud of Jazz for this. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. So you heard Alexis mention wrestling there. Early in the show, he said he used to write for 10th year seniors. And of course, if you follow them, there's a lot of sports. Not all sports, but a lot of sports. So I asked him. Culture. Off air. I said, so you wrote for sports? You like sports? And then he tells me,
so I do write about sports, the NFL in particular, but I also did a lot of my writing was about professional wrestling.
And I said, what?
the look on your face, it still resonates. So, like I said,
not Greco-Roman.
No.
Not
professional
freestyle
wrestling, WWE, AEW. That's the space that I existed.
And then I said, so you write comedy? Then it's from a comedy perspective.
No,
obviously, if it's professional wrestling, this could only be comedic.
No, it's very good storytelling. Like I said, people will. Listen, I totally get it. But like I told you, I've been a fan of professional wrestling since I was in high school. it was a thing that like to the point where we would go, me and my dad, by one of my uncles to watch the pay-per-views because my mommy wasn't having us paying, I think it used to be like $60 to get the pay-per-view on the cable bill, right? So we would go to him, he had DirecTV, so we'd watch it there. But you know, it was a thing that my dad and I kind of had a shared interest over. Yeah. And then eventually it just became something that I just kind of continued to follow. So even now where I may not have the time to sit down and watch 3 hours on a Monday night, but I will like catch up online because there's a lot of coverage around it, right? So people will do the full blog and rundown of what happened in the show the same way you would have like what happened in the NBA game last night. Right. And then, like I said, I tend to watch more of the big shows. So you'll have a pay-per-view once a month or every so often, and that's kind of the space where I sit in now as a fan. But it's very engaging stuff. So like I said, there was a story that they were running for about 6 to 9 months where you have the Rock's little cousin Roman Reigns. I hate to say little, but this is his little cousin in real life. So he was the head. He's the head of this wrestling group, and 3 of his cousins are in the group. And so there was a white Canadian wrestler named Sami Zayn who was basically trying to get himself into the group, ingratiate himself to the family, much like if you had somebody who was trying to get into a mob family, because this is the way it was presented, right? So it's very much a mob story. Long story short, he eventually found himself to be trusted and in the family, but along the ride, he has a longtime good friend, Kevin Owens, who he's been buddies with forever from the independent scene, real life best friends. And that became a wrinkle in the story because they're saying, well, you know, Owens is fighting for the title, and you're his friend, so you're not on our side, you're on his side. So it comes to the point where at the end of the match on Saturday night, they have Kevin Owens tied up, beating the living snot out of him, and you know they go to waylay him with the chair. And so Sami Zayn steps in the middle. He's like, "No, like you've done enough. Like they've beat him down. He's handcuffed. There's nothing he can do." And so Reigns says, "Well, okay, no, I shouldn't do this. You should do it to prove your loyalty to the family, right?" So he hands him the chair, and obviously you now have this point of like, what do I do? Because this is my best friend from forever, but this is the family that I've been trying so desperately to get into. And so what ends up happening is Reigns turns his back, and there's so much connection to past stories, but nonetheless, Reigns turns his back, and then Sami in that moment decides to hit Reigns with the chair, and everything breaks down. So now he's shown that his loyalty, even though he was trying to get in the group, was more so to his friend because that's his friend for like 20 years. And that was, like I said, it's kind of the culmination of a story they'd been telling for about 6 to 9 months. And even in him getting hit with the chair is a callback to a story from, I want to say about maybe 8 or 9 years ago. Reigns was in another group called The Shield, and one of their members turned on him by hitting him in the back with a chair. So it's like there's little nuances thing where if you're a long time watcher of the programming, there are little things like that they call back to. It's the same thing with things like in the Marvel universe, right? You'll have something that is a callback to a moment in a movie from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And so like I said, it's had its down moments, I will admit to that, but especially in this current era, there's been a lot of really good storytelling. It's not fake in the way that people will say it is. Yes, it's choreographed, and the outcomes are predetermined. But I dare you to go and take, you know, a back body drop or a body slam in a wrestling ring and then act like it didn't hurt, right? So it is real in the physicality of it. But yes, it is choreographed and scripted and all of that. Sorry for the kids who may be listening. I hope y'all in school. I'm not ruining somebody's Santa Claus moment, but. No, I mean, like I said, I
people say they feel like a kid listening to this.
I hold
that's great.
No
I guess.
shame about the fact that I'm a wrestling fan.
So when you used to write, you don't do this much anymore. The writing.
It's just it's the time isn't there as much. So what I tend to do now is write mostly around big events. So this particular story is one that I've been waiting to write about. Yeah, so WrestleMania is happening the first weekend in April.
Oh my goodness!
Right. So this is a story I've been waiting to write about, but I was just kind of letting it play out to see where it ended because it's a really cool story, and especially now the way it has ended, kind of the callbacks to other things that's happened with some of the people involved. It's a really, like I said, it's nuanced storytelling. It's not always that, but when they get it right, it's akin to watching things like the MCU, watching things like I said, there's a lot of Godfather connections that they were trying to make with this particular story with him as the mob boss and people trying to get into the family and all of that sort of stuff.
Okay. So
it doesn't have to be your cup of tea, you know.
I mean, I used to love it when I was a kid as well, right? But after a while, I'm like, oh boy. But so I mean, when you write, people are like responding, like, yeah, I like.
So I will say this: I found, to my surprise, I found that there's a lot more people that watch wrestling. I feel like people watch it in a very closeted way because they don't think that, you know, it's a comfortable space to sit in to talk about, because you don't want. Because I feel like this is the response, right? And you're giving me a lot of grace here and having the conversation, right? You're not just casting me aside. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people look at it like, I don't really tell anybody. But you find that there's actually this community that exists where there's a lot of people who actually still watch it. More than I thought. So when you know, you put out an episode of the podcast and you see, you know, within a week you have 300-400 views, and it's like, oh no, like there's a community here. And then when you put out posts and you see people sharing it and putting their input on the Facebook page and stuff like that, it's like, no, like there's more of a community here than I thought. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But I also get kind of the flip side of it, which is like, you watch wrestling, like for real, like as a thing that you do. Like you sit down and you spend 3 or 4 hours watching grown men wrestle in tights. But like I said, to me,
because it's not MMA, it's not.
No, it's not MMA. But I mean, see, so MMA is tough for you, like, especially now, like the power slap thing that they have that Dana White is doing. Like,
that's crazy.
You have people who
that's madness.
No, that is absolute madness.
Really,
there's been multiple people who have had concussions to the extent, like crossing a little bit here. So Tua, I'm not going to pronounce the last name, who plays quarterback for the Dolphins, right? He had a concussion early in the season where he landed in this position that they call fencing, which is your hand is just kind of stuck, you know, in that sort of motion.
Scary.
And there's been at least 4 people, because I've not watched the show, but obviously because it just came on and it's one of those, you know, things that captivate people. I've seen a lot of the short clips, and there's been at least 4 people already who have fallen into that fencing position.
It makes no sense.
Definitively, they've gotten concussions, and it's just like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, you know, watching it, knowing that, okay, most of this is it's not going to have the same sort of real physicality that MMA would, but at the same time, it's kind of giving you that space where you're getting, you know, crafted stories around it and really entertaining stuff, you know.
I'm curious. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday about whether the amount of violence that we're seeing in the country is because so many people don't have an outlet for maybe the frustration they are holding inside, and whether I have an issue with boxing, right? And sorry, people who are boxers, but maybe I said it, wrestling. Not professional wrestling, but why don't we have that in schools here? And maybe something that could merge the physicality with the creativity, like professional wrestling. Maybe why don't we have a league or something? That would be interesting and provide some outlets for folks.
I know there was a group that had put on 1 or 2 events with it's very small, with local, like a professional wrestling style. A few years back, they had actually brought in some folks who were wrestling independently in the States. Not necessarily the biggest names, but people who would come in. So there was that. But in terms of the outlet conversation is a very, very interesting one to have. So, you know, I think that, like, we have a 4-year-old, right? And we look at her and we think about, okay, so when she gets into stressful situations, how do you release, right? Because you look around and you see people have a lot of really damaging ways that they try to release tension and release stress. So I find, like, the conversation my wife and I have been having is, you know, what type of kid do you have? Is this a kid that would benefit more from a physically demanding release space of their stress and their tension, or is she the type of kid who would benefit more from a creative release, so something in music or the arts or drama or dance, right? And so you kind of try and learn the kid, like, so this is obviously from a parental standpoint, right? You try to learn your kid and see what it is where they find their peace and their release from. So, like, for me, I know that if I think the most beneficial thing for me outside of taking like a jog or run around the neighborhood is I personally would want to put up a punching bag in my home, right? Because sometimes, like as a man, I need to get that out way more physically. But I think it's something where, you know, I've had this conversation in so many different ways, just about how pulled away parents are from their kids. Because I think you have to learn it early, and I think you have to instill it early to say, hey, you have this as an outlet, you have this as a release. But when you have parents that are working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet because inflation is going up, the cost of everything is going up, your salary's not changing, but yet you still have to find a way to try and, you know, get your kid an education, keep them out of trouble, but then you're out of the house for 16 hours, sometimes 20 hours out of the day. So I think it is very important to have the conversation around what do we have as outlets. So if it's wrestling, if it's, you know, just simple exercise, if it's, like I said, if you're more creative and you get that more from sitting down and plunking at the piano or trying to learn to play an instrument like the guitar, or doing dance, doing dramatic acting, whatever it is, I just think that we oftentimes don't think about ourselves or our kids in a thorough enough manner to realize, no, everybody needs a way to release, you know, whether it's stress, it's tension, it's pent up energy, whatever it is. And you have to be able to figure out what is your mode of release and then find a way to do it that's healthy. Right?
Yep. Well, yes, healthy. That's a key word there. All right, so we're getting a couple messages about the Jazz Chisholm, and this person says here, I'm going to read the whole text. You can text us as well, 422-4796, or call in 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. I just keep on thinking about what you were talking about, though, Alexis. It sounded like a soap opera digest. That's all I'm thinking. You give a synopsis. Okay. Anyway, this person says the word idiot was thrown around loosely during the last 2 weeks. I want to say, but I won't, that those who don't see the significance of this are perhaps idiots and of low intelligence. Wow, that's a bit harsh. Okay, but they're talking about folks who don't get how big a deal it is that Jazz is on the cover. Yeah. I don't understand how people couldn't really. I mean, seriously, they didn't.
Because I think it's because of the general disdain that some people have just for video games in general. So you don't see, and some people not understanding the difference between being in the game and being on the cover. So like I said, a lot of the conversation was, you know, hey, well Clay has been in the game and Aiden has been in the game and Buddy has been in the game, like so he's in the game. But it's like, no, he is the cover athlete. There are commercials that are going to be surrounding him that are already out there that talking that continues to talk about his Bahamian roots. Like it shines a very important spotlight. It continues to shine a spotlight on Bahamians in sport.
And have you had a Bahamian in a baseball video game before?
I mean, if we've had Bahamians that have played baseball, they would have been in the game, right? Because anybody who's on the roster who has a contract who plays is going to be in the game, right? So it's not so much that. It is just the fact that in the same way, if Clay was on the cover of NBA 2K or Aiden or Buddy was, it would be the same sort of a big deal. I think there's an interesting position where baseball fits in our sports narrative culture here, where I don't think people see it or engage with it as much. And then I think it's also that thing of, well, it's a video game, who cares, right? But that's a video game that people are going to pick up and play. Like I know somebody on my Twitter who is not a gamer who said they would buy the game just because he's on the cover, right? Because it's that sort of thing. It's like it's almost like, for people, even if you're not into it, you buy the physical game and you have that as a memento, because you can say, hey, here's this young Bahamian guy who went and played baseball and got to the point where the Major League Baseball, which is the preeminent baseball federation in the world, said that he should be their cover athlete for their video game in this given year. That's a big deal.
And he is celebrating the Bahamas in it.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't lose sight of his culture at all.
Absolutely. Let's take this call really quickly. Good morning, caller on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well.
All right. Mr. Hinsey here for BWE, Bahamas Wrestling Entertainment.
So there we go.
Oh, okay. Hey.
Yeah, I heard you guys on the radio talking about the last show. I just figured I'd call in and give you all some new updates, if that's fine.
Sure.
Go right ahead.
This is, okay. We need to have you on the show.
Yeah, sounds good. Just let me know when there's an availability. I'll be there.
Yeah?
I'll have to co-host that show too.
Yeah, okay. You have his contacts, yeah?
We'll have to get.
Yeah,
out
let's
there.
stay on the line and get your contacts. But I mean, like, how many people do you have in your league?
Right about now, we have 7 wrestlers, 7 Bahamian wrestlers, and 1 female. That's the only problem. So 6 guys, 1 female. Looking for some more females, but I don't know what's up, man. It seems like the ladies in the Bahamas are a little timid about that. So, but I don't know. I'm working on that.
I'm pleasantly surprised. I had no idea we had something like this. Really? When was the last time you all had a show?
We had a show last year, October, gone. And presently, we have the next one that's going to be March 11th this year at Anatole Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember. I think the last show you guys had before the pandemic was I think her name was
2020 March.
La Rosa Negro. Was one of the wrestlers. So I have a friend of mine who fell in love with her off of that show and now follows her and tries to see where she's wrestling all over the place and catch her appearances. So no, we attended that show. I remember watching it. And like I said, there were a couple of guys who had been in WWE who are now wrestling independently that were at that show. I think you guys, I think it's an opportunity to kind of expand. I hope that because I remember even when we went to the show, I was surprised with how many people were there because you tend to have this impression that people aren't into wrestling.
Right.
But I remember going to that show and being like, wow, and there's people brought their kids out, a lot of people with their, 3 or 4 kids or the cousins in the family. And you have a bunch of little kids just jumping down, just having a blast.
And you do the same thing, the storylines, you have that going on as well?
We have storylines going on. As a matter of fact, there's just to throw out a few names. There's a gentleman by the name of Pork Chop. Mr. Pork Chop, you would have seen some videos I have on Instagram, Facebook, storyline between him and also Santangelo and Island Boy. These guys and Dead Dealer, Mr. Two-Face. Man, listen, it's going to be a ball March 11.
Okay, all right.
Some folks to come out.
Stay on the line. We'll get your number. We'll have you on before then. We'll talk about wrestling in the Bahamas, professional wrestling, and how that works. All right. Thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate that. Wow. Okay, Alexis, you're exposing me to a whole other side of the Bahamas. Well, look at that. Let's read these messages before we go to break. This person says, they're always proud and excited when one of our own is successful on the world stage. Congrats to Jazz Chisholm. #242 to the world. Wonderful. Okay. Good stuff there. All right. This one says, did Alexis go to the mountain to chew on the beetle nut? I don't know if that is what that means. Do you know what that means? Is that a wrestling thing? Or are they trying to be funny?
It might be, but
they might, okay. Maybe they're questioning the wrestling thing. but I see the excitement in your face. I'm happy for you. That's good stuff. Send me a couple of the articles I want to read. These. Sure. See how this goes. Okay. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the BIA and the Bahamas Insurance Association, what they are saying about what the government is doing with that and what you need to know. This is a big deal, folks. These changes are said to be coming for April. We'll get into all of that right now. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Whether you're looking for your first or new home or even using your existing home as equity, RBC understands that your journey to home ownership is unique and your mortgage financing should reflect that. That is why at RBC we have dedicated mortgage specialists that provide sound advice and helpful solutions to make your dream home a reality. Best of all, the RBC mortgage team is mobile, flexible, and will meet you almost anywhere. Visit rbc.com/take 60 seconds to connect with an RBC mortgage specialist.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
At Wendy's, we are different. We don't just use beef. It's fresh, never frozen. Our burgers are square because we never cut corners. Served hot off the grill with fresh lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and American cheese. We believe in fast food done right. Always serving fresh, never frozen beef. Order a hot, juicy Dave single, double, or triple. Made with fresh, never frozen beef. Now only at Wendy's. Different inside and out.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Sarah, how are you doing?
Okay.
Are you sure? I noticed you've been down lately.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I can't really put into words how I'm feeling, but I know I don't feel like myself sometimes. There's just so much going on in my life. School, friends, sports. Sometimes I worry about different things and feel stressed.
I'm glad you're talking to me. And it's okay to talk about your feeling. It's normal to feel changes depending upon what's going on around you.
Yeah?
Of course. All of us should be concerned with our mental health and our well-being. Good mental health means that we can cope with our everyday stresses. You can talk to me anytime when you feel like it.
Okay. Make sure to update Strachan Talks more often and take things from there.
Message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Hey, Bill, glad to see you back in the office.
Who?
Bill.
Oh, sorry. I think you're mistaking me for someone else.
Tom.
Nope.
Jack.
No.
Alex.
No. Want me to just tell you?
Nope, I got this, George.
No, you don't. Still not me.
Adam.
Not even close, man.
We're like a coworker that didn't forget your name. CG Atlantic Agents and Brokers. Good like that.
Okay, good to see you, Mike John.
It's Mordecai.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Feel all broke up, ain't sleep all night. My body's aching, no appetite. Scratchy throat, running nose too. Got to see my doctor, it could be the flu. Oh doctor, doctor, I ain't doing good. If I got the flu, then that's understood. He said, open your mouth wide, say ah. You've got all the symptoms of the flu thus far. I got the flu, I got the flu, I got.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Alexis Burrows. And this morning we're getting into it with the Bahamas Insurance Association. And over the weekend they issued a statement and about what the government is hoping to do with health insurance. Well, health medical procedures in general, and VAT. And we got into a little bit yesterday with the Department of Inland Revenue, but we're going to get into it a lot more with the BIA this morning. And here with us, we're very pleased to have back with us the chair of the BIA Health Insurance Committee, Marcus Bosland. And I can't believe it's the first time that she's been here, but but she's also on the Health Insurance Committee, Satna Chetlani. Welcome. Great to have you both of us. Let's get your mics up there. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you're going to have to speak very slowly on this because we've been reading the articles and reading the various statements, and I think there's still some confusion about what exactly is happening here. But let's take it from the very beginning and very slowly on what is about to change come April.
Sure. So the government has made a rule change regarding VAT and how it affects health insurance policies. As everyone knows, VAT is a consumer tax. Health insurance is taxable. So our clients pay VAT, 10% VAT, on the premiums that they pay. VAT typically allows you to deduct any tax that you pay on your inputs because it's a value-added tax. So essentially, insurance companies right now, they collect 10% VAT on all the premiums that we charge to our clients. We fork that over to the government, and we deduct from the amount that we remit to the government the VAT that we pay on our inputs. Now, by far, our biggest input is health insurance claims. I mean, that's why people buy health insurance, right? To protect them when and if they get sick. So by far, that's our largest taxable input. It's our largest input. And the government has made a decision, a rule change, that essentially they've determined that, in their view, the VAT that we pay to doctors and pharmacists and other medical providers is not a service that they're remitting, that those providers are giving to us, the health insurance companies. And as a result, they're saying we cannot deduct it as an input. Now, it sounds technical, but some of the technicalities really obscure what's actually happening. The bottom line is the VAT that we currently deduct when we pay our proceeds to the government is now going to be payable by our clients, right? So it is a very material thing. I think in over the course of the weekend, the government put out, the Ministry of Finance put out a press release that I think makes the case better than we did. They said they conducted an audit on one of our members, and they determined that member had deducted $20 million over some period in VAT on health claims. So what that means is that with the rule change, that company's clients would have had to pay an additional $20 million in VAT to the government. It is a decidedly material change to how VAT operates for health insurance, and it will have decidedly adverse impacts on our customers.
Okay, so we're going to go to the news in just a second, very quickly. But before we do that, so let's paint that picture for what a consumer, somebody who is a client, will experience in April if this rule change goes ahead. This $20 million that you talked about, how will that be different in April? What will we see?
So currently, if it is you access medical services that for which the health insurance company would pay, say, $10,000, these now pay the 10% VAT sorry, $100,000. Let's use $100,000 because that's not an odd number at all these days. So the medical services of $100,000, company pays $10,000 in VAT. Effective April 1, the insured is going to have to find that $10,000 in VAT to pay to the medical service provider before they can access services.
Wow.
So, as Marcus says, it compounds that this change is not insignificant to the public at all.
Yes, and the press release that the Ministry of Finance is confusing in that regard.
Yeah.
Because they actually, in the release, they actually depict this change in policy as
I think it's insignificant or
insignificant.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll read the whole statement when we come back.
Yes,
but yeah, that's not insignificant.
Not at all. And it's in the same release that mentions the $20 million number. Now naturally, the Ministry of Finance deals with massive numbers. It's the government's budget, right? But I can't understand how, from the standpoint of a private entity, that someone could reasonably consider a $20 million increase in taxation as an insignificant amount. And I think this perhaps sort of illustrates the challenge that we have, because there has been ongoing discussions between the BIA and the Ministry of Finance for a little over a year. I would have come on this show maybe about 7 months ago and talked about where we were and about our concerns, because this has a massive impact on our clients. And, you know, as much as we can explain that this is a material change that harms our clients, the press release almost suggests that that is not fully understood by the Ministry of Finance, because there's no reasonable way that we can look at that $20 million impact that they have stated in their release, that an adjustment that accounts for that much money. Now, it's not a one-year figure, it's a multi-year figure, but still, it's a lot of money. An adjustment that has to address $20 million has to be a big adjustment.
Yeah.
And we all know, like I mentioned before, VAT is a consumer tax. The customer pays. There's no way that massive increase is not going to be noticed by our customers.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to pick this up on the other side of this quick break for the news. This is Morning Blend, about to be Morning Blend Business. When we get back, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Wake up, it's a new day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with my guest co-host Alexis Burrows today. We continue our discussion with the Bahamas Insurance Association. We've got Marcus Busland and Sapna Chatlani with us this morning. And you were telling us off the air that that's a great saying there about increases like this. With VAT, you may have to, Marcus...
You might have to have cookouts to pay VAT.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, the example that Sapna mentioned earlier about a $100,000 procedure, that is, as much as a big a sum as that sounds, that is quite common. Typical insurance company will have several of those, several much, much higher than that. So when you're talking about paying $10,000 VAT, I mean, people don't have that kind of disposable income typically lying around. Right. And so, whereas in the past, the insurance company would pay it because obviously we can deduct it. Going forward, that's a burden that consumers would have to bear. And it's a really regrettable fact. And you know, we've been fighting a good fight, I think, as far as things go for the last year with the government, trying to convince them that this change was not in the public interest. But they have a different view. And as much as we've tried to substantiate it, we've not been able to. So it is going to create tremendous hardship. I don't know if the government fully recognizes how difficult it's going to be for consumers. But, people make a responsible decision to get health insurance, whether through their employer or through their own means. And to add this burden to them, in our view, is unconscionable. And to be honest, it hasn't been substantiated. I mean, I've read the Ministry of Finance's press release clearly. They don't make a case for why clients, having paid VAT on their premiums, should have to pay VAT again on their claims. Right. That does not make sense to us.
I'm going to read the statement in just a bit from the Ministry of Finance, but this texter, and I think you have to say it again because I don't know if people are understanding what's happening here. This person says, if the doctor's bill is $100,000, including VAT, and I'm covered by the insurance, what's the issue?
The issue is the government is now saying that the VAT, it belongs to the customer. Let me read from you briefly, just one quick sentence from a letter written to us by the Financial Secretary. Mm-hmm. This is a letter that we received. It's dated June 22nd, 2022. It states, the patient, as the recipient of healthcare services, is the beneficiary of those services, and therefore the person to whom VAT is charged. The health insurers are merely settling the patient's medical bills pursuant to the insurance contract. Consequently, health insurers are excluded from claiming input VAT deductions on the provision of healthcare services. It's clear the ministry's position is that the VAT on the healthcare service belongs to the insured person, our client. Mm-hmm. And it is he or she who has to bear the financial burden of paying it. So it's a very substantial change to how health insurance works. How health insurance has worked up to this point is how just about every company has treated VAT. You charge our clients VAT, you deduct the VAT that you pay on your inputs, and you remit the difference to the government. Right. That's how it works. But now, we cannot deduct the VAT that we'll pay, any VAT that we pay on health insurance claims. It belongs to the clients. And yet that same client would have paid VAT on the premiums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are the big numbers. If we break it down to smaller numbers, a dentist visit maybe, $100.
Yes.
Right? You all are good with math, so you can do it. But you have a deductible or you have to pay your copay, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's $20, but you would immediately have to pay the VAT on the whole process in addition to your copay. Is that right?
Correct. So right now you're paying VAT on your costs. Mm-hmm. So if your costs were $20, you pay an additional $2 VAT to the dentist or whatever medical provider it is. In the future, the VAT on the entire, so you have a $100 service, the VAT is $10. So in the past, you were paying $22.
Right.
In the future, you're paying $30. The $20, which is your share of the underlying service, and the $10, which is the VAT that you'll remit to the provider, who will then remit it to the government.
Those costs will add up.
They will. And that's a key point that our consumers have to understand.
Yeah.
And it's right there in the ministry's press release. They looked at one company. It added up to $20 million for that one company over an unspecified period of time.
Yeah.
So it adds up to big bucks.
All right, so let me read the statement from the Ministry of Finance. This was released on the 29th of January. All right, so the statement reads, the Ministry of Finance has sight of a press release by the Bahamas Insurance Association, the BIA, with respect to the VAT treatment on health insurance claims. The ministry wishes to express its disappointment with the BIA that the BIA would release a statement that relies on so little facts, and the statement misconstrues key elements of the discussion and seeks to politicize a technical issue. For transparency purposes, while conducting a 2021 audit of a health insurance company, the Department of Inland Revenue discovered the incorrect treatment of VAT paid to a health provider. Audit results revealed that the company claimed VAT as an input, although it was not a beneficiary of the service provided. This is clearly against the VAT Act. This company subsequently benefited by receiving over $20 million illegally that should have been paid to the government. I want to go back over all these, but let me read the whole statement, then we'll come back to it, okay? Subsequent to the above, the DIR continued to audit similar insurance companies. After similar problems surfaced at other health insurance companies, it was suspected that this issue may not be isolated to one company. However, DIR, without auditing all health insurers, could not confirm this position. For the record, the DIR only discusses audit results with the taxpayer or his or her authorized representative. In this case, the taxpayer advised the BIA of the audit results, as is the taxpayer's right. In this regard, the BIA's comment about the unorthodox method of finding out about this issue is misleading and not factual, and seeks to cast aspersions on the professionalism of the DIR and the Ministry of Finance. Once the BIA became involved, discussions were had at all levels, including the DIR, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Economic Affairs, and the Prime Minister. In these discussions, the BIA acknowledged that health insurers were applying the incorrect VAT treatment and petitioned the government for a transition period to apply the correct treatment. This offer was formally made to the government by the BIA and was formally accepted by the government. The attempt by the BIA to imply that this was a unilateral decision by the government is again not factual. With respect to the impact of this change on the individual or group health insurance client, the government believes that this would be insignificant. The rate of VAT tax on health services is not changing. There will be no double layering of taxes. What is changing is the treatment of this VAT paid by the health insurance company. This would be no different from treatment of VAT paid on insurance claims by general insurers as of April 1st, 2023. Different companies will deal with these adjustments in different ways. However, the health insurance market in the Bahamas is very competitive. The BIA is seeking to unnecessarily alarm consumers about this adjustment, and this is unfortunate. The Ministry of Finance was of the view that through its discussions with the BIA, all parties had reached an amicable solution to this issue. However, this statement, filled with misinformation from the BIA, is very disappointing. The public is encouraged to visit the National Budget website, bahamasbudget.gov.bs, to stay up to date on the latest news and information on the country's fiscal matters. Okay, so let's take each part of this. Let's go back to the example they gave with the health insurance company and the inputs and all that. Break that down as simply as you can to what they are suggesting and what is the reality here.
So I mean, I
why
think
they could believe that the company was receiving the money illegally.
It's a very emotive word to use. A couple of things I will say on that paragraph. One is that the health insurance companies have been operating in a particular way, and it is because we were instructed by the Ministry of Finance when VAT was enacted as to exactly how VAT would work for health insurance. Mm-hmm. I recall vividly being in presentations when the then Financial Secretary, Mr. John Roll, and the then Deputy Financial Secretary, Mr. Simon Wilson, explained to us precisely how VAT would work. How for our business, we would pay our share of the VAT in the same proportion as we pay the underlying medical service. Mm-hmm. And all the health insurance companies have been operating in that way. So whereas I guess it would have been it's expressed in the release that it was a bit of a surprise as to how the health insurance companies was doing that. That's exactly how we were told as an industry by the Ministry of Finance to run that. Mm. So for us, it's no surprise that the DR conducted 2 audits and found out that both companies were operating in the same exact way because this is how we were told that.
It's not purely coincidental.
No. And to use the word illegal is quite remarkable given that this was precisely how the Ministry of Finance told us to operate. And again, I think listeners need to understand VAT is a consumer tax. The consumer pays the tax. So it's not that a health insurance company was benefiting by deducting VAT. The client is who's benefited to the tune of $20 million. Mm-hmm. Right? And that is what the change in policy is seeking to undo. Mm-hmm. Right? For us, I mean, I don't think any private business has clients who have a spare 20 mil and is willing to pay that over.
Right.
That's not the nature of our business, and certainly it's not the nature of the economy. But the effect of this policy change is to cause our clients to pay a substantially increased VAT burden.
Yeah. So obviously you'd have said this in your meetings, right? That this is the way we were told to do it. And so why are you acting surprised?
Yeah, it is weird, right? Because we've always spoken frankly, directly to the Ministry of Finance, always. And our position on this is well known to them. And our concern about our clients and why we are concerned about our clients is similarly well known. So it is a little surprising to us that maybe the message that we've been trying to communicate has not fully been understood or fully heard. But our position has always been that this policy change imposes an undue burden on our policyholders, and we do not support it. We've always been clear on that. Now, we respect their right to make whatever rule that they wish to make. This is the role of government, right? They govern. We recognize and understand that. But we've been advocates for our clients throughout the last year on this matter to try to cause the government to make a different direction. And regrettably, we were not successful.
All right, so a lot of people pay their insurance or on payment plans. So what difference will that make here? Will your first payment have to be the VAT immediately? Is that what's supposed to happen now, or what happens going forward?
So with regards to the payment of the VAT, the insured is going to have to pay that directly to the medical provider. The medical provider is now going to collect the VAT and remit that to the government. So effective April 1, VAT on the medical claims is no longer the responsibility of the insured.
And on the premiums, nothing changes, right? The client continues to pay their VAT on the premiums to the insurance companies, and we continue to collect that and remit it to the government. So nothing changes on the premium side. It's when you receive a medical service, that's when you'll notice a difference, because the provider will be asking you for the VAT, and you'll have to remit that to the medical provider. So that money never touches the insurance company. It goes from you, the consumer, to the medical provider, and then from the medical provider to the government.
And in that vein comes the importance of the communication with the medical providers, with the public, because the change effective April 1 impacts them more so than us.
And in part, that's one of the things we were complaining about, that when you read the statement, it suggests that the Ministry of Finance didn't fully get. Because we felt that, we've said in writing and in person to the ministry, that the consultation on this matter has to go beyond the BIA. We represent insurance companies. We certainly advocate for our clients, but it affects them, it affects medical providers. So we thought that it would be good form to consult with the medical providers, the MEB, for instance, and other associations. And we also recommended public consultation.
It's already February, pretty much.
Exactly.
We're not hearing much about this at all.
No, the Ministry of Finance decided to go a different way, right? And they've responded. I'm grateful for their response, because they've put some stuff into the public domain that we can discuss. But the discussions, to our knowledge, no discussion was held over the course of the last year with the Medical Association, none, to our knowledge. And I think the lack of, what we complained about in our press release statement was the lack of public consultation. If the government will make a poorly thought out decision, it doesn't change or impede their ability to do whatever they want to do. They are still the government. But by not seeking and receiving input from others, we think they may have made a worse decision than had they properly consulted. And that was the nature of our complaints, not so much some of this stuff.
Right. When we asked about this with the DIR yesterday, they said, this was supposed to start last July and that this is delayed, but yet we still aren't hearing anything from anybody else other than you all. So that's curious. Based on what has happened over the past few days with the dueling statements, have you heard anything more from the Ministry of Finance? Are we communicating through press releases now, or where do things stand?
No, I think in large measure, our consultation is over. One of the things the ministry alludes to in their release was that we've reached amicable settlements. That is not quite how we would characterize it. Perhaps the last letter that we wrote to the DIR essentially was a letter essentially recommending the terms of our surrender. And it simply said that we recognize the government is going to make this rule change. They wrote us in late November and indicated that the actual rule change would be in effect Jan 1, giving us just about a month. And we wrote asking for more time, which is what the mention is made of that in the Ministry of Finance's release. We asked for more time. We said, oh, give us at least 3 months, which they accepted, and we're grateful for that. And we asked for a few other small matters related to transition so that it would cause as little disruption to people receiving medical care as is possible, right? And I want to just read briefly the conclusion of that letter that we wrote to the Department of Inland Revenue, because it states our position as clearly as we could, but it's not apparent when you hear the Ministry of Finance's release. So we say, the Bahamas Insurance Association is committed to ensuring that the Department of Inland Revenue's new rule is implemented effectively. We are hopeful that you view the recommendations made above in that light and work with us to mitigate the disruption that will inevitably arise as a result of your position. Our association maintains that your new VAT rule harms Bahamians and that it does not have our support. So we are crystal clear. We are working cooperatively with the government to do what they want to have done. And we will always do that. We owe that to them. But to say that this is an amicable agreement does not, I think, give justice to the nature of the discussion. We are not in a position to change VAT rules. The government is. We can only influence their decision by giving giving them our perspective.
Yeah.
And we've done so. And we've stated quite clearly that we oppose this rule. We don't think it's in the interest of our clients. We don't think it's in the interest of Bahamians. But we respect their right to have a different view. But I think the onus is then on them to explain why this rule is just, why is it appropriate. It's not good enough in our view to hide behind technical language. This is not a technical matter. It relates directly to the cost that Bahamians will bear who have health insurance. And I think the government owes people a frank and direct explanation as to why imposing additional taxes on people who have health insurance is appropriate. Right. That's all we're asking for. And it's not a question about the BIA. We're not changing the VAT rule. We were not entirely comfortable with that in the first instance, but we worked with the government to do it. And you didn't see a whole host of releases on us screaming about it. VAT is a reality. We accept that. But this rule change is inappropriate. And we will implement it, but we are not supporting it. And that's not to say that the government doesn't have a right. They can proceed. But it's their decision, not ours.
Yeah. Well, we're getting a lot of messages and calls are coming in. We'll get to those in a bit. You mentioned the MAB, the Medical Association. Have you heard anything since? We haven't heard anything, but...
No, the MAB was largely cut out of the discussion. We have, on occasion, informed the MAB of the changes that are afoot. And when we got the ministry's final position in December, we wrote them to tell them that this is what's happening. They're in receipt of our press statement, so they understand the public statement that we've made. I'm sure they're discussing it, and they'll have I presume they'll have a public statement at some point. But I can say that they are aware of it. They have expressed some concerns about it, but I'm sure when they get together and they formally discuss it, they'll have something to say.
And I guess, I don't know if you would know, but I mean, if one can't pay the VAT up front, what happens?
Well, if you can't pay for a service, you can't consume it. And, this is, when we talk about hardship, this is what we're talking about. When I mentioned people are going to have cookouts for VAT, this is what we're talking about. It places a burden. And, the burden may be enough to cause people to lose access. And these are people who have health insurance, right? Who are meant to have decent access to health care. And it's decidedly regrettable that this burden will now be placed in their lap.
And another consequence would also be to drive individuals to go to an already overburdened public healthcare system.
Right. Or for that matter, to go to an overseas medical provider who doesn't have to charge you VAT.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's going to harm the medical profession as well. It increases the cost of accessing care in the Bahamas and only in the Bahamas.
Wow. Okay. A lot to think about here, folks. I hope you're paying attention to this conversation. Give us a call if you have any questions. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. We're speaking with Marcus Boslin and Sapna Chatlani with the Bahamas Insurance Association. Here's a text. Great to bring attention to this, but don't expect the government to understand or care about the VAT plight. Just like the price control issue with the supermarkets, the government will breeze over it. But if citizens can't afford a 5 or 10% copay, how does the government think it's right or that people could afford 10% of a full medical bill? We've all seen how this pre-insurance medical bill is overinflated. One same thing we were just talking about, right? Boy. Another one says here, okay, we'll just say the government won't listen. All right, let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well. Good morning.
Awesome. And your guest. And I'm just wondering, I'm hearing that the gentleman keeps saying about an additional tax. But I mean, if it's VAT, it's always been that tax, and it's always been on the people. I mean, that's pretty much why we were against VAT. So I don't see how this is a new tax. It seems, from what I understand, the DIR is saying this is a back office mishandling, right? And if a company mishandles $20 million, they should have a windfall that they should be able to submit. So I don't see why the onus is now going to be on the public per se, because it just seems like a back office mishandling. My only problem is, why has it taken so long for the government to catch wind of this?
Okay, we'll let them explain. You're falling into the trap of the press statement, I suspect. But Marcus, maybe let's go back and clarify that there again.
So I mean, I think for the man in the street, I think this is an easy misconception. VAT is paid by consumers, not by taxable companies. Companies don't pay VAT. So this is not a back office mistake. This is how VAT operates. And by saying going forward, companies cannot deduct VAT, what that means is that additional burden that the companies would normally escape is instead placed on the policyholder. So the company didn't benefit from the deduction on VAT. The consumer benefited. And this is what I want to make sure people understand. VAT is not something that companies collect and hold on to. It's paid, it's a government tax, it's paid to the government. And if the government changes the rules in a way that increases the VAT burden paid by a company, that increases the VAT that the client pays. So what was incorrect about that statement, in my view, is it said that the company benefited. That's not true. It's the company's clients who benefited. And it's important for people, listeners, to understand that the change in the rules changes the amount of VAT that you will pay. It does not change the amount of VAT that the company pays, because the company pays zero VAT on taxable products. Zero. That's true of every company in the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Zero. The clients pay the VAT.
I mean, does it increase the VAT, or does it just require you to pay it up front when you might not have it?
So how we describe it in our press statement was that it's now 2 levels of VAT. So you're still paying VAT on your premiums. Mm-hmm. And in addition, you'll be paying VAT on your claims. So whereas before your total VAT burden as a consumer was the VAT on the premiums, that's it. You pay your 10%, you're done, right? Going forward, you'll pay your 10% VAT on your premiums. And in addition, when you seek medical services, you're going to also pay VAT on the medical services to your provider. So that's why we describe it as 2 levels of VAT.
Okay.
The Ministry of Finance doesn't like that characterization, and they mention that in their press release. And that's fair. They don't have to like necessarily the language that we use, in the same way that we don't have to like the language that they may use, right? Each of us are entitled to our perspective. But we say 2 levels of VAT because we think it aptly describes what our clients will experience from April 1st. They will experience the joy of paying VAT on their premiums. And again, they will have a second experience when they receive medical care because they're going to pay VAT again. Whereas right now, they're not burdened by that second level of VAT because the health insurance companies can pay it and that we can deduct it. You see? So that is the difference that this policy makes
And I
and
think
how
that-
it affects consumers.
Right. And I think that's critical. So currently, I don't think that individuals understand. So VAT is value added tax. And so the value add is as a benefit to the consumer who's receiving the medical services. Currently, the insurance company pays the VAT on behalf of the client and recovers it on behalf of the client. The position that the DIR has taken is that the value add, those services are not a benefit to the insurance company. So the insurance company should not be recovering that VAT. They've clearly stated that that VAT belongs to the insured. And it's the responsibility of the insured to pay that. So it's just a case, it's going from the insurance company paying the VAT and recovering it on behalf of the client, and it now being stated very clearly that it's the responsibility of the insured.
Yeah. Let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Are you there? No, call us back. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. All right. Some of these questions here. Somebody says, do NHI clients pay VAT when getting a service?
I do not believe there's any VAT on NHI. Certainly, NHI is a free service. So from the public standpoint, there's no VAT involved in NHI.
Well, this isn't really for you all, but a statement. The Prime Minister is determined, I'm editing, on taxing the middle class into oblivion. He goes to the states for his health care. Oh boy. We want income tax. Why don't they tax the rich? Okay. Just to simplify this rule, if I receive a payment for medical services in the amount of $100,000, the insurance deduction of 80% is applied and I have to pay the $20,000. Do I now have to pay an additional $10,000 to the government in VAT? This is insanity. This is what you were saying.
Yeah, pretty much. The caller got the math a little wrong because right now they already have to pay the VAT on their share. So in that example, they
So
would have to
even
pay
more
VAT
than-
on the $20,000 that they currently pay, which would be $2,000 VAT. So that's what they're paying right now, $2,000 VAT. But in the future, that $2,000 will increase to $10,000, like $8,000 difference.
Boy, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question and I have a comment. My question, I was trying to figure out if I heard right. So the people, they say that they pay the VAT for the customer and then they receive the money back.
Sure, yes, that's how VAT works. So a simple example, forget insurance for a second. You go to buy some fried chicken from somebody, right? The fried chicken person had to buy raw chicken.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying.
Fair.
But that's how I get it, right?
Yes.
What the government is trying to say is that you recouping the money, but you ain't paying that for you. You're paying that on behalf of your client, of the insured person. So that's my bill you paying. But you're supposed to pay my bill, right? If I've insured through you.
Yes.
So that's a part of the bill you paying. So then you should not be able to collect that back.
So currently, the insurance company would pay for the medical services that the individual receives. And so the product that you purchase, is priced based on the fact that we're covering the medical services. Not the insurance that you purchase is not to pay VAT on your medical services. That's not traditionally how it was priced. That's not the design of it. With the implementation of VAT and our understanding and the guidance that we received in terms of how VAT should operate, we conducted our affairs in accordance with that guidance. And so we would have paid VAT to the government for those services and then recovered it in precisely the same way that you would in any other insurable business.
Yeah, but
taxable business, sorry.
Let me say, VAT is a word. VAT is just a word for added cost. When I go in the shop to buy onion, the onion costs $1 plus 10% VAT. The cost of the onion is actually $10, not $1 plus VAT. It's $10. So that's the same thing with the insurance. When you pay in my insurance bill is the amount of money I have to pay, not 100,000 plus 10,000 VAT. My insurance is my bill is $110,000, and you paying that for me. So you can't collect back money on behalf of me. That's what the government is saying. I don't think they're saying that I have to find that money to pay. The only thing they're trying to do is you're paying the money and collecting it back, and that's where they're saying that's illegal. And I have a feeling you all understand that, and you're all trying to play with people's emotion to make them think that they have to pay this money. But what you need to do, don't put it in your words. Don't try to explain it. Read exactly what the government put forward. Just read it word for word, and so people can understand what they say.
Okay, caller. Boy.
It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
but
quite.
There's nothing wrong with the government making a rule change when it wants to. But I'm not sure the caller understands that if we don't pay it, somebody's got to pay it. So if it is the VAT is not for the health insurance companies to pay, he has to pay it. And so it's not a question of trying to scare anybody, but I think consumers have to know that come April 1, they have to pay the VAT on the health service. And that's really all there is to it. And the government's position is fine. It is what it is. But the burden that we in the past were able to take off your chest, you're now going to have to absorb it. So that's what this is. I don't think the government is saying anything differently in this regard from us. They recognize that if it is the VAT is not deductible from an insurance company's standpoint, the burden is going to be placed on the consumer. They recognize that somebody has to pay the VAT. They haven't reduced the VAT burden in any way. They've increased it. So that's the only piece of what that caller said that I disagree with. I mean, because to me it's clear, if the insurance company can't recover your VAT on your behalf anymore, then it's on you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. This text here, wouldn't it then make sense to not now pay VAT on premiums and simply pay it at the point of service? Has that been proposed?
I mean, that texter essentially is describing an exempt product. Mm-hmm. We have exempt products and services that are available in the Bahamas, but that is not the situation here. Right. The situation that situation will have us not charge our clients VAT on our premiums, and then we can't get VAT back on our inputs, mm-hmm. including health claims, but including other stuff as well. That's not our situation. I think that would be a more understandable situation, more consistent situation with the way, in terms of how VAT operates, than the one we currently will exist in, which is one where we have to pay VAT, we have to charge VAT, on our premiums, but then we're restricted in that we can't deduct VAT on our inputs.
Yeah. This texter, this is a big deal. I don't know, anticipate that everyone will understand the math, but this is big and has scary implications. It certainly does. This person says, wow, that caller completely missed missed it that if he needs to have a $30,000 surgery before April 1st, he would have paid $600 plus VAT of $60. After April 1st, he will now have to pay the same $600 plus an additional 10% on the remaining $224,000. That's a huge increase.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we don't know if there will be a plan for that. As you say, you might have to get a loan or find some money to pay the VAT part, which is unbelievable. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get to more of these questions and these text messages that we have, and we'll find out what the way forward is going to be for everybody. We're talking with Marcus Bosland and Sapna Chetlani with the BIA, the Bahamas Insurance Association. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio, 96.9.
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Ready to step into the future? From your front door to the backyard and everywhere in between. See and speak to whoever's there with Ring Video doorbells and security cameras now available at Alive. Protect what matters most, all from one easy app, available in your Google or Apple Play Store. Visit bealive.com/ring to learn more. We are alive.
Are you ready to break up with your car? Easy Car Sales invites you to fall in love with an electric vehicle. Ditch the gas pump, the expensive mechanics. Feel the freedom, the power. Visit easy242.com and make a date to test drive an electric vehicle today. Get into a better relationship. Find your perfect match at Easy Car Sales and drive electric happily ever after.
Whether your business is in-store, on the go, or both, let Fidelity work with you to maximize your customers' payment options with a fixed or mobile terminal so that you never miss a sale. It's safer than cash and more convenient so that you can take your business anywhere. For details, contact a business development officer today at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport, or visit our website at fidelitygroup.com.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit cfal.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours. Already get the first set of knowledge. Now it's time to prepare you for college. You're thinking so much you gotta do. Legacy will handle that for you.
Legacy College Readiness and Tours is committed to providing a comprehensive guide through the college selection process, regardless of a student's academic profile. There are many ways one should engage in college selection process. Word of mouth, extensive research, college fairs, and if possible, the most important, college visits. A campus visit is your opportunity to get a first-hand view of a college. A college catalog, brochure, or website can only show you so much. To really get a feel for the college, you need to check out the town, the city, walk around the quad, sit in a class, and visit dorms. College tours are an important part of the college selection process, and Legacy College Readiness and Tours offers that opportunity. If you're interested in hearing more about college campus tours and summer workshop prospects, give us a call at 242-809-5278 or email us at legacycollegetours@gmail.com.
are back here with Morning Event Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong, along with my guest co-host Alexis Burrows. We're talking with Sapna Chitlani and Marcus Boslin with the BIA. And clearly some of the text messages we're getting and some of the folks calling in still don't see it, what's happening here. So he gave us a good example off here. Let's do that again so people can understand what they're seeing, what is happening right now if you have insurance when you go to the doctor or get a procedure done.
Sure. Thanks, Dwight. And, I understand that, it's a complicated matter, and we're trying to make it as simple as possible. But I think a deeper example would probably let it get more comfortable, let more of our listeners get comfortable. Mm-hmm. So let's stick with the example of $100,000 procedure. So that's obviously something serious, a hospital stay, something like that, right? So right now, VAT on that health service would be $10,000. 10% of the 100,000. Fair. So we know 10,000 of that service has to go to the government, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So if you had a split 80-20 between you and your insurer, you're responsible for $20,000 of the claim, and your insurer is going to pay $80,000 of the claim. Mm-hmm. Because you're responsible for $20,000 of the claim, you're also responsible for the VAT on that. So you're going to pay your medical provider the $20,000 for his or her service, plus the $2,000 VAT that you are currently obliged to pay. Mm-hmm. Your insurance company is going to pay $80,000 to the medical provider, plus 10% of that, which is $8,000. Again, the insurance company pays that to the medical provider. Mm-hmm. When we file our VAT returns to the Ministry of Finance, we have to give them all the VAT we collected on your premiums, right? So we give them the 10% that you would have paid to us on your premiums. We get, though, to deduct the VAT that we pay on our inputs. Our biggest input, like I mentioned earlier in the show, is our health claims. Mm-hmm. So we would have paid $80,000 on that claim, and $8,000 VAT we would have paid to the medical provider. Mm-hmm. So we then take that $8,000 that we paid to the doctor, and we can deduct it from the amount that we have to remit to the government, because the government has already gotten the $8,000 from the doctor, mm-hmm. right? That's the doctor has to then get. The doctor would have collected the $8,000 from us, the $2,000 from you, $10,000 in total, which is the amount of VAT that they would have had to charge on their medical service, and they would have remitted that to the government. Mm-hmm. So the government has already gotten that $8,000. I think it's important for people to understand. Mm-hmm. They've already gotten, the medical provider has charged $10,000 VAT on the service. The government gets it, right? We then, when we're filing our VAT returns, we have to remit, just like the medical provider had to, we have to remit all the VAT that we collect on our premiums. So the 10%, whatever premium you paid us, we have to take 10% of that premium, we give it to the government. We then, though, are entitled currently to deduct the $8,000 that we would have paid on your behalf to your medical provider. So the government gets a net of those two things, the premium, the 10% VAT that you would have paid on the premiums, less the $8,000 that we would have just paid for you to the medical provider. So we're not benefiting. It's important for people to understand that. We would have paid the doctor $8,000. We get back the $8,000 from on our VAT return. So we're in a neutral position, which is how VAT works. Right? The consumer pays it. The government would have gotten the 10% VAT on the service directly from the medical provider, and they get this sort of extra from us. So we pay them the 10% VAT on the premium, but we deduct the 8%. The $8,000 on that we would have paid on the claim.
Yeah. All right, so do you have any theories as to how they got this number with the audit of that health insurance company, where they got that $20 million from? Do you have any idea what they could be talking about there?
Well, it's a massive number, so it has to be an audit, a multi-year audit. Mm-hmm. The period is not specified. I can't remember when VAT came into force. Was it 2015 or 2016, something like that? Mm-hmm. So it probably was an audit that was, I don't know, several years, hazard a guess, 5 maybe, right? Maybe, who knows? Mm-hmm. So if it were 5, it would be about $4 million a year, which sounds to me like a lot of money, right? But, it's important, it really paints the picture. We within the BIA last year, in trying to make sure that the Ministry of Finance fully understood how impactful this would be, we conducted a survey of our members. We asked our members to tell us how much VAT did they recover on health insurance claims over the past couple of years, right? And we use that information, we use our understanding of changes in the rules, because the VAT rules obviously have changed a little bit, right? It was 12% at the period, it was now 10%. Medicines used to be exempt, medicines are now taxable, right? So we use some of those, both the past experience of insurance companies and those rule changes to sort of impute what the VAT burden might be on an annual basis for the entire industry. And it looked like around $11 million a year in additional costs. So understand that. This is $11 million that in the past, health insurance companies have been able to recover. And we've been able to recover it because we are a taxable business, and taxable business can recover VAT on the inputs. But in the future, we will not be able to recover. So this is an additional VAT burden that our clients will bear to the tune of $11 million per year. So these are massive sums of money. It's a material adjustment. It cannot reasonably, in our view, be described as is insignificant. This
Certainly
is a material
impactful.
adjustment.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Some of the messages in our final few minutes here. Someone says, this is horrible. So the patient gets taxed more and gets nothing back. Well, of course. Horrible. Another person says here, UK hospital services are also VAT exempt. I have no clue how the government thinks this is a workable situation. You had mentioned this earlier, Marcus, about people seeking services abroad. Is going to the U.S. for medical services, is this going to make that cheaper? Is it going to be cheaper for folks to do that than what is offered here in the Bahamas?
And that's a troubling thought. I mean, the Bahamian medical sector is pretty strong, pretty vibrant. They offer a very wide variety of services. It's not necessarily cheap, but it's oftentimes cheaper than certainly U.S. alternatives. But now they would face a 10% markup on their services that a U.S. provider doesn't, right? You don't, if you go over to Miami and have a medical procedure done, they don't have to pay VAT to the government of the Bahamas, right? So it creates an incentive that to us is a bit perverse, quite unfortunate. It may bring a range of services to be either equal or cheaper in the U.S. or other destinations than it is in the Bahamas. And that makes it more difficult for local providers as well. And it's not that their costs have gone up directly. It's because there's this additional VAT burden that in the past was spared them because our clients are already paying VAT on the premium. So they have to pay VAT again on the service.
This interesting text here. Most insurance companies have an annual physical that is 100% covered by the insurance company. Will these patients now be required to pay the VAT for annual preventative medical examinations while they continue to pay for the NHI patients?
Yes.
Yeah.
They would have to.
They would pay all VAT.
All the VAT. Wow. So what's next? This is what's going to happen, or is there anything else that you can do? Someone's suggesting a text here that the Prime Minister probably doesn't know of what's going on. I can't imagine that. He's Minister of Finance, but I
can talk a little briefly on that. Certainly, we've been. The BI first wrote the government on this topic, I believe, in December of 2021. So we've been discussing this for a little over a year. We have to admit that and we're grateful for the fact that the Ministry of Finance was willing to discuss it with us. They have received a number of letters from us. We have a number of in-person meetings, up to and including an in-person meeting with the Minister of Finance. We have taken this as far as we can go. I described earlier in the call a letter that we wrote to the DIR as our letter negotiating the terms of our surrender. We have gone as far as we can go. This is the final position as we understand it from the Ministry of Finance. It could be that there are other avenues to cause policy changes to come about, but that's beyond us. And it's not our primary purpose in making our public communication. At this point, we as the insurance companies accept that the government's mind is made up on this matter, And it's important for us to educate the consumers. It's important to us to educate the medical providers who are partners in health insurance business. And if it is outside of us, people raise concerns that the government listen to, that's a welcome outcome. But it's not really our primary purpose because it's not something that we can directly cause.
Right.
And I think that remains the key goal and objective for the BIA at this point, to ensure that the various parties are educated so that come April 1, they have a full appreciation as to what these changes mean for them.
Yeah. This final text, I guess, sums up a lot of what you all have been fighting for. Dwight, I totally understand the insurance company's perspective. They were easing the burden on the clients by paying the VAT. But the government seems to want to add the burden on Bahamian people. Boy.
You know, whether they want to or not, that is the effect of the rule change.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to hear what we hear next from the Ministry of Finance, and whether there will be an education campaign about this big change coming in 2 months. But Marcus Boslin and Sapna Chetlani, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you to the BIA for bringing this to everybody's attention. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Alexis Burrows, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, sir.
We must do it again soon. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business. Brought to you in part by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. Pick up today's Guardian Business section to get the latest business news in the country. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.
Wake up, it's a new day.